And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. It is Brothers of the Serpent podcast. This is episode 34. It is February 2018. I'm in the Tangent Cube of Science with my brother Kyle.
Yo.
And we're going to go ahead and get started on this episode. We had some great stuff happen in the news these past couple of weeks. So we're going to start with those. Should we start with the LiDAR? The light imaging and ranging technologies.
Yeah.
LiDAR is badass. Point clouds are my favorite thing.
Light imaging, ranging, and what is it?
I think it's just light imaging and ranging. Light. That's what it said when I looked it up. Light imaging and ranging is LiDAR. Okay. Yeah.
Got it.
I mean, they even put the A from the and in there. It's kind of a lame. They were really stretching for that one.
Yeah, so they...
light detection and ranging.
Oh, yeah, there it is.
Yeah. Sorry, light detection and ranging.
Light detection and ranging.
Yeah.
LiDAR. So, yeah, it's basically like they'll have a laser with a mirror that can rotate, or there's a lot of different ways they do it, but one of them is they have a mirror that will rotate back and forth, and then sometimes like the lower energy types will pulse the laser as the mirror rotates, reflecting the laser down, and it'll know the exact angle that the mirror is at when it pulses the laser, and then there's a receiver, and when it receives it back, it knows like the distance, and therefore can, with one laser, you can actually get
So since the receiving mechanism knows the power of the laser as well, it knows everything about the laser itself
and the angle that's shooting down.
So like a lot of times they'll have multiple receivers and lasers. Yeah. So like they'll set up all these, they'll have them on the ground, on these big tripods, and then they'll have them in drones or in planes, flying around, and they're all shooting lasers down. And like, so it's great in a jungle environment or in any place where there's lots of foliage, because as the wind just kind of moves the leaves around or whatever, the lasers will sometimes pass through to deeper stuff. And then the detector will see that as another data point and add it into the point cloud. So you'll see all the trees and everything, but you'll also see the ground layers below it.
And the sensors will also detect the intensity of the reflected light,
right?
And which computer programming can determine that something is like thin or transparent, right? Like a leaf. Some of the light goes through the leaf, all the way to the ground, and
in some cases they're also able to sort of guess at the material because of the reflection.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, like so, I've seen point clouds of like some of the Mayan pyramids or whatever, and you can see where there's moss growing on the side of it in the point cloud because it can detect the difference between it reflecting off the moss as opposed to the stone up higher. Yeah.
It's like, what is this green shit?
Yeah, what is this? Why are they making it green?
Nothing living wants this color. But yeah, so I don't know who they is, but some group did a LiDAR scan of, I can't remember how big of an area it was in Guatemala. It's pretty big.
Mayan. It's the Scan Mayan project.
Oh, Scan Mayan.
I'm just guessing. Because it's Scan Pyramids, right? Scan Pyramids, Scan Mayans.
But yeah, they found 60,000 structures in the ground, beneath the canopy, all around the pyramids in what was the name?
Tikal. So it's a famous Mayan site.
The real tall pyramids with they almost look like giant thrones on the top of them.
Yeah, the giant throne pyramids. So you look at Tikal, it's like basically there's like 3 or 4 of these extremely steep pyramids or whatever, and they're kind of in the middle of the jungle. And like they've been messing, what did you say, 50 years they've been out there?
I don't know how long they've been
poking around on Tikal, and like everybody, I mean, millions of tourists have gone there and everything. Well, those pyramids are surrounded by an enormous like an urban area. It's like it's got canals, walls, just like all the pools. Like they had irrigation in there and everything. Just tons of buildings. But they're
One of the archaeologists was like, "Man, I've been working next to this freaking wall for years, and I never saw it, dude." And the freaking laser picked it up. Okay, so Brett's saying that they're
yeah.
planning to map more than 800 square miles of land, but they haven't done that yet. This is just a small chunk of that.
Yeah,
I
just
believe.
around the pyramids. Yeah,
Isn't that right, Brett? Like what they've done so far is just a small area.
Yeah.
But the ultimate plan is to do 800 square miles. So it looks like this shit is just going everywhere.
Yeah.
I mean, it was, so now they're having to rewrite the whole idea of who these people were based on the population. They were like, we thought this was a population of so many people. So if you think about it in terms of the story building that is archaeology, they find these pyramids and they're, you know, the structures that they had already found and that they're doing all this work on, and they're saying, well, there must have been so many millions of people here, right? They're estimating this based on the sophistication of the structures and the writing and, you know, the glyphs or whatever, and their astronomical knowledge and all this kind of stuff. They're trying to put it together and trying to figure out how many people over how many years would it take,
right,
to develop this extensive, you know,
complex. The complex of structures or whatever.
Right. No, what's the word? Why can't I think of it?
Civilization.
Building stuff.
Structures? I don't know what word you're looking for.
God dang it. The art of building shit.
Construction?
Designing
architecture?
Yeah, architecture.
Okay. That one of
so
the
yeah,
A's,
they come up with a basic number, and their estimates were basically around 5 million people, and now it's jumping up to
twice that,
10 to 15 million,
which is still bullshit.
I know. That's they've
like, if Tikal is like that, all the rest of them are like that.
The funny thing is, this is my point is that, like, they're planning to do 800 square miles, and they just started with one square of stuff, and they find 60,000 structures, and they're like, already, well, we'll have to bump it up to like 10 to 15 million.
I guess there were more of these people than we originally thought. Yeah.
Oh man, it's awesome. I'm super excited. I'm really glad that they're doing this down in Central America. Like,
Guatemala.
This is why I've been looking at, you know, that area or that region.
Yeah.
Because they don't have the political problems that they have over in Giza. As far as like discovering shit, like
they have political problems, but not like that.
Right. But
absolutely.
But even from the stuff I'm reading, like, we did it on a couple of shows ago or more about, you know, the tunnels they were finding under the pyramids in Mexico.
Yeah.
Where they're still like looking for tombs.
Yeah.
They have that whole mentality, but they're not.
Look at these Mercury maps. Clearly there's tombs down here.
Right. There doesn't seem to be any push to, like, don't study it. Right. Don't look, don't research it. Don't, you know. Yeah.
Really, from what I can tell is from Mexico and further south, like, all of their hesitancy comes from publishing in any kind of press that will get global publication, because the American archaeologists will come down hard on them like that.
Yeah,
we talked about how they did that with the Olmecs. They waited 50 years collecting Olmec artifacts so that they could just sort of like have this big convention and throw it all out there at once so that it couldn't be denied, because they knew that, like, specifically American archaeologists are just like fucking assholes and pigheaded, and they don't want to change their stories.
Yeah.
So
Brett's saying that
they have mapped. Okay.
They have mapped 800 square miles. They're planning to map 5,000. Okay, that's even better.
Yeah.
But so he's saying that it says from 250 to 900 AD is the timetable. I remember reading in there somewhere that they were saying it was somewhere around 1500.
Yeah.
Was it
1500 is like the
BC or AD?
AD is that, I mean, Mayans are recent according to the classical.
Okay. Yeah, I don't think that shit was built.
Right. It looks
in 1500.
It looks really like those pyramids are found structures, just like the rest of everything down there. Like the cultures that we associate with them are the last people to use them, but they didn't necessarily build them, you know, or at least, like, especially when you find out that those pyramids are actually a covering over some older structure, right? That they've kind of encased something more ancient, and then there's something more ancient under that, and then you get those weird what are they called? The Choctaw dudes that are like in this weird sort of squatting, sitting positions, laying on their backs. It's really strange shit down there.
The one guy with holding a bowl or whatever on his belly.
He's holding a bowl and he's like laying on his back, but he's got his shoulders up. It's a really strange looking statue.
That's where they cut people's hearts out.
That's where they did cut people's hearts out.
Right. Well, somebody
clearly
did.
this bowl is meant to hold hearts.
Yeah, somebody did that, but not necessarily the builders.
Right.
I find it hard to believe that the builders did that. That
look
totally
around.
seems like something that later peoples that discover it were like, oh my God, worship. And, they start doing some crazy shit.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like I have a theory on the whole human sacrifice thing. And it has to do with like, if you keep experiencing these catastrophes, like it kills everybody. So you think clearly the gods require death of lots of people. So you think if we kill shitloads of people in sacrifice, maybe they won't wipe out our civilization. Yeah. Right. So that's what I know that at least the Aztecs thought that they were saving the world by doing those sacrifices. Yeah. So
anyway, that's really badass, dude. This LiDAR stuff, like, man, I would love to.
Yeah, so 5,000 square miles.
To get a hold of one of those.
I know.
Put it on a drone and fly it around.
5,000 square miles of LiDAR. Like, so, you can imagine from that in 10 years or so, maybe 15, the whole planet will be LiDAR'd. Like, we'll have cloud maps of the entire, like, we'll have a Google Earth LiDAR. Yeah. Right? And that will like, so think about that. You'll have no undiscovered surface structures anymore because LiDAR will find them all. Yeah.
And I was reading also that like autonomous, vehicles or whatever can use LiDAR. Yes. Yeah. And it gives it extremely accurate.
I was watching videos of like pre-programmed automatic drones where they basically, the drone will go into a structure that's partially collapsed, where we don't know the interior either because it's falling. It's collapsing, right?
What? Go ahead.
So they send the drone in, and the drone has to be able to map the structure as it flies, so that it doesn't run into things and is able to continue. And they show, so in the video they're showing like, you can't see the drone, but you see the map that it's building as it's flying around. And it was badass, and it's using LiDAR. It's got a laser on it that's spinning. Yeah. Right. And so you see the building just start, like these hallways start to appear, and the doors and shit, and like other stuff will start to appear and then it moves over across this way. It's all and maps all this other stuff that it can see. Yeah. And then it's choosing where to go based on the map that it's building at the time. So it's a really cool technology.
Imagine like with our processors in like 15 years. Yeah. How far that's going to go. Like I was imagining like they'll be able to put this shit in your phone in 15 years.
Yeah. 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 Turn off your flashlight, turn on your LiDAR.
Yeah. Like you get into the autonomous vehicle or whatever, and you put your phone there. Yeah. And your phone basically does all the navigation and everything. Right. So that all the data is like stays with you of where you've been and all that kind of shit.
Yeah, so you could use your phone if you're exploring a cave or if you're in the woods. Yeah. You just you have it build up a LiDAR map as you're going along.
And then you have your little VR glasses and you're like, I can just walk in the dark in this cave.
That's right.
Brett says, so they have mapped roughly 16% of what they intend to map, and already the scope of Mayan civilization is tripled. At this rate, the Mayan peak population will be increased by 2,400%.
Yeah. That's a good estimate. Like you can clearly okay. So this is the other thing I thought of. The first thing when you were showing me this article, you sent me the link. I was like, okay, so this is going to make it a little more difficult for them to explain why these people stopped being Mayans
and why they vanished.
Like I'm sure all of you guys that listen, like I'm sure you've heard, like the Mayans disappeared. Well, if you say that in certain places, people are like, no, they didn't. They're still there. They just live in the jungle. Okay, so then why did the Mayans who build stuff disappear, right? Or like, why did they just stop building things? Well, before this happened, when you said that, what people were envisioning was that these Mayans sort of walked away from the temples that they had made, right? They just walked away from the pyramids into the jungle. They're like, we're done with building these triangles. Well, there's an enormous urban area with all kinds of planning and irrigation and canals and all this bullshit around those things. So now you have to explain, why did the Mayans suddenly stop building cities and just left them? Like they walked out of their cities because there's a lot of Mayans out there. There's millions of them still. But so what? At some point they just decided fuck cities and they just walked into the jungle and that's very strange.
Yeah, I don't know. That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. Like you have these enormous urban centers.
It's something happened that caused either everyone to die or vanish. But it's like, where are their bones?
Yeah.
If it was 15 million people that just like,
right.
Where are they all? Where are their remains?
Right. Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Something very strange happened that like the fact that people will.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
There's only 16.58 million people in Guatemala right now.
Right. Yeah. Well, and the Mayans had a pretty large coverage. I mean, they're all the way up into the Yucatan. Right?
Yeah, but they're basing this Mayan population off of what they're finding in Guatemala right now.
Yeah.
Okay, so
yeah, the Central America total population estimated between 41 and 42 million people in 2012. Right. So
what he's saying is that if the trend continues
from 5 million to 120 million, which is the increase of 24,
there's going to be more people. More people would have been there then than are there now.
Yeah, and I think that's accurate because if you look at the size of this city that we don't have any cities in the middle of the jungle. All of our we were saying before on a couple shows ago, like everything's coastal. We don't build unless there's a river. Like so, there may be little towns and stuff, but really, when you get away from the coasts in Central and South America. Like I said, once you're 500 feet away from the coast, you're like in massive danger of disappearing and dying, and whatever. But there's like little villages, incredibly primitive, zero power. No, they don't have plumbing, all that kind of stuff. They're tiny villages that dot near the rivers and stuff like that. But there's nothing like enormous urban centers in the middle of the jungle.
Yeah.
So
this is
the idea. Yeah, the idea that the Mayans or whoever was living there before. If they had a bunch of urban centers all over the continent, then yeah, they would have had a much larger population than we do now down there.
Yeah,
and maybe the jungle wasn't there, Yeah,
at
least some of it.
And maybe they had technology to get water there or whatever.
Yeah,
like it obviously was easy for them to build all of that shit inland.
Right. Yeah.
So
there was a good reason for doing it.
There was a good reason for doing it.
Yeah. Yeah. Like people,
and it was worship, bro. That was their reason. Worship is always the best reason.
Right. Like okay, so Israel is built in a really bad place for a city, right? Relatively, like there's no water there. You can't grow anything there. There's no soil. It's a rocky mountainside, basically. It's Mount Moira. It's a terrible place for a city. So you have to ask the question, like, why is Israel there? It's because of the platform, right? That enormous platform that's now people call it the Wailing Wall or the mosque is up there. It's where the Jews thought that the world began. The Hebrews it's got the weird stone. Anyway, so the reason they put the city there is because of that platform, right? So the Mayans may have been doing that in some cases. I know I read about how they would build enormous centers around the cenotes, the big sinkholes, because they thought those were they led straight down to the creator god. They kind of have a rainbow serpent thing, like Quetzalcoatl is down there.
Yeah.
He lives beneath the waters, and that's why they would throw shit.
I was reading what Brett was saying. Where is this you're talking about, in Israel or in
Yeah, so I was just saying, you're asking questions about why did somebody put a city somewhere. Like when we build cities in modern times, all of our cities are like on river forks or at crossroad, like a lot of cities were built based on railroad tracks.
Port cities, basically.
Yeah, but there's ports. Yeah, so everything has to do with transportation and water.
Right.
Right. So you got all along the coast, there's cities, and it's populated all on the coast. But inland, it's on rivers, right, or in valleys or in passes, places that have to do with transportation. So if you find a city in a weird place like Jerusalem, it's a weird place for a city. You can't grow anything. It's all rocky. There's no good soil. There's no water. There's no water source. There's no river. There's no spring.
It's obvious that it's a very ancient city then, right?
Yeah, but there's no known water source, period. Like there's never been one.
Okay.
It's on, like Mount Moira. It's like kind of on the mountain. And the reason it was there is because of the fucking platform that was up there.
Yeah, but in, let's say, a different climate, there could have been a lot of rainfall there. And there would have been basically springs and all that kind of shit.
Yeah, maybe.
So like, but where we live, like we have a couple of years where it rains a whole lot. All of these springs start bubbling up out of the ground.
Yeah.
So you can imagine like there's Indian mounds on all these dry creek beds and shit.
Yeah.
So they lived there, but they couldn't live there now. But if we were still living there, you'd be like, why are you still there? Well, this is because we found this mountain.
Yeah. So that's what I think happened. Like the platform was built when it was a good place to make a city.
Yeah.
And after that, which was basically all in the Holocene, after the end of the Ice Age, it was not a good place to have a city, but the platform was there. Mm-hmm. And the platform was, I mean, like if you go, if you just take the biblical history that they give of Jerusalem, they always had water problems. So like the whole time that we know of, like in the modern, I guess what you call the modern or civilized age or whatever, we didn't have a good reason for a city to be there except for this very ancient structure.
Yeah.
That was, and also the fact that the Hebrews believed that the tip of Mount Moira that sticks up through the platform was the beginning. That's the foundation stone of the whole planet. Like,
That's cool.
Yeah. That's what's underneath the mosque up there. So, yeah. And Brett's pointing out that the closest body of water is the Dead Sea, which is a terrible source of water. Right. It's like
desalinization.
Yeah.
Plan.
Like you can't even dive in it. You dive and float on the surface. And it's like, it doesn't have any life. It's a Dead Sea for a reason. So yeah, so just going back to what we were saying with the Mayans, like I would be interested to find out why they chose the sites for their cities.
Yeah. Aren't there a bunch of or a number of like these springs, these natural sort of artesian wells there?
The cenotes, are you talking about?
I guess they found like all kinds of stuff like that. They dove down in there.
Yeah. Yeah, like
all kinds of shit. Like
the whole Yucatan Peninsula, plus a bunch of stuff around it, was shattered by the impact of the comet thing that killed the dinosaurs. I mean, it just like that entire shelf right there was like when that impact hit out in the Gulf, it just fractured all that rock, and so it was full of enormous caverns and humongous.
Oh my god!
Right, so awesome. Like water from the ocean went pouring through this shattered rock, and like has been digging out for a long time ever since the dinosaurs are dead. And so, like, that's why there's these enormous sinkholes.
Dinosaurs are not dead.
It's probably true. So the cenotes, these huge, you're in the jungle and you come out and there's this enormous hole that goes straight down into the rock. And I mean, most of Mexico and Central America has this problem still. Like these enormous sinkholes just appear in the middle of their cities. Like I've got pictures of that. Like, you've got this big sprawling city and there's just this gigantic hole. And obviously it's swallowed several blocks, of buildings. And it's just right in the middle of the city and it just goes, you can't see the bottom and they're just, it's pretty scary. But the Mayans and other cultures there sort of worship those because they'd have water way down in there. And they believed that the serpent, the creator serpent, Quetzalcoatl or whatever they would call him, Kukulkan, lived beneath the fresh waters of these springs and stuff.
Maybe their pyramids were symbolic plugs.
Like plug in the holes.
They built them next to the holes.
Yeah.
It's like they took this out of the hole.
Yeah, we took these out, and now the hole's open, so we can talk to the snake.
Yeah.
I liked your idea that they were thrones. Like really, when you look at those, it looks like you can imagine like a very big dude could sort of walk up those steps. Not the little bitty ones that are in the middle that are for people. The big steps that are the different levels. He could and then he could sit down up there on the temple at the very top. Looks like a fucking giant seat, a throne.
Yeah. With a door between the legs, like for understanding.
Yeah, that's right. You go in here for understanding.
Standing under the God.
Right. He who hath understanding. You've been chosen by God to be given knowledge. So what's the next on the news?
All right. Well, this one will probably have to drag into the next segment.
News.
But
from the front.
So I don't have the news story pulled up. I should have. But so they discovered all these planets outside of the galaxy in another galaxy, like fucking.
Is it Andromeda?
Billions of light years away or whatever.
Really far away.
Yeah. Let's see. Let me look it up here. And these are the first planets ever to be observed, so to speak, that are outside of our galaxy.
All the exoplanets they've been finding so far have been in the Milky Way, and they were using the Kepler orbital telescope, which uses infrared.
Yeah, so it's located in a galaxy some 3.8 billion light years away.
Wow.
The extragalactic planets are too far away to be observed directly, even with the biggest telescopes now in existence. But astrophysicists at the University of Oklahoma say they were found using data from NASA's Chandra X-ray Observatory Space Telescope and with the help of gravitational microlensing. So that's where they can see the light being bent.
Yeah.
And so they can tell that there's some gravitational field there.
Right. So the star, when something passes directly behind it, its gravitation will sort of bend the light from the thing right behind it to around it in a halo. Microlensing.
So it says it's a phenomenon predicted by Einstein's general theory of relativity, in which the gravitational field around celestial objects can focus light just like a lens, so that distant objects can be observed at high magnification. So let me scroll down to find this.
So you can imagine that way in the future, like some of our best telescopes will probably be like small black holes, that we place out there, and then you back way up and you sort of look past the black hole at stuff that's really far away, and the black hole will like massively magnify it. That'd be pretty cool. Yeah,
I'm trying to look for how many they found so far. It's a lot, but I guess
why did they choose a galaxy that's that far away?
I'm not sure.
Just a test or something?
I'm not sure.
Like, why not start with the near guys? We got.
Yeah, I don't know.
Andromeda is like 2 million light years away.
So they know that of the existence of like thousands of planets basically, but they've all been within the Milky Way galaxy.
Yeah.
And I think that those were mostly in some way detectable, other than gravitational microlensing.
Yeah, they detected most of the exoplanets in the galaxy by looking at the stars and seeing if they dimmed.
Yeah.
When they dimmed, if they did get a dimming of the star, then they would check it with a spectrograph to see what particular light from the star was blocked, and then from that they could sort of figure out what the atmosphere and other stuff of the planet was made of, because like certain elements in the atmosphere will block certain wavelengths of light, and so you can sort of tell by looking at the star's light as the planet passes in front of it what its atmosphere is made of.
Yeah,
and if it hates green, just like everything else.
Yeah. And most of them don't. But okay, so the Chandra data showed the existence of trillions of planets with masses ranging from that of the Moon to that of Jupiter.
Trillions.
Oh man, Pluto is so flicking them off right now. All within a galaxy designated RxJ 1131-1231.
Yeah.
And unlike Earth and its neighbors, the planets don't orbit host stars, but are so-called rogue or free-floating planets that move between stars in a galaxy.
They found trillions of those?
Yeah, there is no evidence that the newfound planets host intelligent life.
Right. Not yet.
Thank you, scientists.
We found 90% of them, though.
But even if they do, the scientists say we're unlikely to make contact. Thank you again, scientists. Okay, this one's all about intelligent life. Okay. The last one I read was, when the story first came out, it was mostly just the data. It wasn't.
Right, they weren't pontificating. Nobody was doing like, how did you feel, scientists, when you found this out?
Yeah.
But hold on, I want to go back to these are not planets that are orbiting stars.
Yeah, they're saying they're rogue.
Wow, I mean that,
and I think that's I may have
the existence of rogue planets was totally theoretical.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But
how would you get so many rogue planets?
They're probably spaceships, bro.
Oh yeah, that's true. Or they're like space beetles or something. Like they're life forms that live in space, big ones. Space beetles, bro.
Yeah. So I was thinking about. I think that the reason why they're able to see the rogue ones is because they're not near another star.
Yeah.
So the microlensing is able to detect it bending around this spot somewhere that's not surrounded by other shit.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is what made me think about, the elastic universe hypothesis. what's to say that they're actually planets? I mean, they could just be. They could be gravitational fields of dark matter. Because they're not really doing the calculations to try to figure out, well, like, you know, here's the total mass. You know, they can't scan the whole freaking galaxy and say, here's the total mass of the whole galaxy, and this much of it is dark matter, and these things that are showing microlensing are not dark matter.
Yeah, so I guess the question I would have is what is doing the lensing, and what are they seeing in the lensed effect? If they're seeing the planets in the lens effect, then I would say that they're probably not dark matter because we wouldn't see it.
So they're not directly seeing anything. That's what the story is saying.
No.
They're not viewing them directly. They're basically
microlensing, right? You're still seeing something because the lensing is causing a focus or a magnification effect so that you see something. It's just not direct because it's going through the lens, right? That's what I thought. So they're seeing something. I don't know what they're seeing though. Like what you just said, I thought, okay, so what are they thinking that these rogue planets are doing the lensing, or is the lensing happening from some other structure like a, you know?
Okay, so the lensing is basically a magnifying glass allowing them to see it, because they're saying they're not actually seeing it. They're using data. They're not getting any visual.
Oh yeah, okay. So they're using data from the Chandra, right? The Chandra is a radio telescope, so we can't see it. Period. It's radio waves. But it's going through something is being gravitationally lensed, which means that gravity from something is causing a magnification lens effect.
It's saying it identifies gravitational signature of planets. It's not actually like showing a planet. They're not seeing.
So it's microlensing the gravity of the planet somehow.
I guess. Yeah.
Now I'm confused.
That's what I'm saying. Like they've said multiple times in the stories that I read that like we did not actually see them. We just know that they're there because of the gravitational field.
Okay.
It's causing light to bend or whatever.
Okay, so it is the gravitational field of these things that's causing the light to bend.
Supposedly, yeah. That's what I think. That's what they're saying.
Okay.
I'm guessing because of course reporters are what I'm reading.
Right. And they don't know what they're talking about. They just start throwing words in there. Gravitational lensing and rogue planets and 5 trillion, space.
Anyway, I thought
well, now I want to get to the bottom of it. I got to find out. I got to figure this out. So maybe we'll take a break and I can figure this out during the break. We can take a look at the break.
Yeah, I have. You go ahead and look that up. I've got this other thing that I want to tell everybody that.
Go for it.
So I just found out. I don't know if you guys all knew this, but it's now confirmed, thanks to scientists, that meditation doesn't help.
Thanks, scientists.
Yeah, so they did this study and they took a bunch of people and they're like, all right, meditate on this cool shit. And then after you're done, we'll see if you're still an asshole. And the people were still assholes. And they were just like, okay, this obviously doesn't work. And yeah.
Wait. It's to see if you're still an asshole?
Yeah, basically they're like, meditation does not make you less aggressive and less of an asshole. It doesn't really help you not be an asshole.
So therefore it doesn't work.
Right. That's pretty much. And then they started saying, that these previous tests that showed that meditating helped people, kind of calm down and not be assholes, not be so aggressive, not so quick to anger. Those studies were done by psychologists. And the guy doing the psychology was included in writing the paper. And so that paper must have a bias.
Right. Because psychologists aren't real scientists. Soft science.
Obviously, the guy doing the study was a meditation guide. He was the guide in meditation. That's what it was.
Okay. Yeah. So clearly he's biased.
Yeah. Clearly he wants the meditation to show that these what is he saying?
Let's test assholes and only assholes. That is the least scientific method I've ever heard of. Yeah, it's a funny thing. Like with these scriptards, dude. Like in some cases, they will flip out on you because you didn't get the experts in the field. And in other cases, when you did get the experts in the field, they're like, well, they're clearly biased because they're experts in that field. So we can't take their word for it. right? Like you go get the meditation expert to do the meditation study, and they're like, well, no. Like if the study produces something they don't like or whatever, they're like, nope. He was a meditation expert. That means he's biased towards meditation.
Yeah.
We can't take his word for it.
Exactly. Yep. I'm trying to pull this up now. I'm going to have to bear with me here. I was driving to work reading all these news stories.
Death driving.
No, because I was look, this is how I was reading them. Yeah.
Yeah.
Here we go. Oh yeah. Oh, okay. Here's the headline.
Meditation doesn't make you a better person.
Meditation doesn't make you a better person.
Define better person. Yeah.
Yeah. New research suggests this widely held theory that meditation has long been touted as being able to make the world a better place may actually just be a myth. A team of scientists have found it does not make people more compassionate. So the Dalai Lama had claimed like if every 8-year-old in the world is taught meditation, the world would be without violence within 1 generation.
Wow.
The Dalai Lama.
The Dalai.
But it appears the
Lama.
respected monk could be wrong. Really?
No.
Someone could be wrong. For scientists have revealed the trendy Buddhist practice does not make you more compassionate, less aggressive, or less prejudiced. They didn't say that, but meditation, incorporating a range of spiritual and religious beliefs, has been touted for decades as being able to make the world a better place. However, researchers from the UK, New Zealand, and the Netherlands, no wonder, have found meditation doesn't change how adults behave towards others. Let's see. Blah, blah. All world religions promised the world would change for the better if only people were to follow its rules and practices. The popularization of meditation techniques in a secular format is offering the hope of a better self and a better world to many. In the early 1970s, transcendental meditation conveyed this message openly, announcing that the rising number of individuals practicing this technique would lead to world peace in the short term. They were a bunch of fucking commies.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, we're not supposed to get political. Sorry.
Well, the commies are gone, so we can,
Okay,
got to hand to those commies, though.
Yeah, so the team of researchers reviewed more than 20 studies that investigated the effects of various types of meditation to make the conclusion. Let's see. I don't know. This is just funny. This is okay. It's like it's like the health peep. I almost said. Anyway, it's like the health Nazis.
Yeah. There you go.
Okay, I just get it out. Like coconut oil is bad for you. Ban it.
Right.
And then nowadays, coconut oil is the best thing you can have, and everybody must eat it.
Yeah.
Or else you're not cool.
That's right.
And they're doing that with meditation. Like
those coconut oil people, like, were claiming to be a scientific research place, and there was just like 2 people in a little office building with a fax machine. They weren't scientists at all.
Yeah.
They didn't know what they were talking about. They just didn't like coconut oil.
Yeah. So basically, a further analysis revealed that meditation didn't reduce aggression or prejudice or improving how socially connected someone was. So, like, they pick a few parameters or a few things to look at.
Yeah.
And then say meditation doesn't work. It's not going to make the world a better place.
Right.
Because you're still an asshole.
Right. Right. So the criteria for
They decided what the criteria for a better world was.
right. The criteria was you need to be less of an asshole. An asshole's kind of I've been called an asshole for doing things that I thought was nice.
Yeah, they were talking about social connectedness and prejudice
Wow.
and aggressiveness. So, look, dude, there's one thing that has made the world a better place for damn sure, and that is freedom.
That's right.
And you know what? If you want freedom, you have to be an aggressive fucking asshole.
Yeah. Sometimes you do. Yeah.
Yeah.
You got to be prepared to be an aggressive fucking asshole at any point.
That's what I'm saying. To protect your freedom.
That's
and
right.
that's, having the fortitude to stand up for what you believe and not take shit can take some meditation.
Yeah,
if you meditate and you fucking clear your mind and you become confident, then you might still be an asshole, but you could make the world a better place. So I totally disagree with these fucking scientists.
But clearly that's their particular belief and they stood up for it. So, Good on them. But they're totally wrong. Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Like, I completely support their right to be fucking wrong.
Right. Basically, it seems to me that they want us all to be scatterbrained. You know, let's go get some fucking ADHD medication and fucking go to fucking school for fucking 30 years. And
let's start taking cocaine derivatives when we're 5 and just like go from there. Yeah.
Because it makes us act better in school.
Right. It makes little boys stop acting like little boys.
Right.
Yeah.
Be more submissive.
Man, this kid
do what you're told.
This kid just can't focus. He's a little boy.
Yeah, maybe he needs some meditation. No, that doesn't work.
No, he needs cocaine.
All right. We're going to take a short break. Of course, it's only a 30-second break to you people, but
it's a very, very short break. But to us, we're going to be looking at this microlensing.
We're going to kick some ass.
Trying to find out how you find deep snakes.
Welcome back, Brothers of the Serpent podcast, coming to you live, but not from the 10x10x10 tangent cube of science. Always ready to kick some ass, take some names, and skirp derp some skirp derps.
That's my favorite thing to do right there. Skirp derp and skirp derps.
That's my favorite thing to do.
That's my favorite thing to do right there.
So yeah, you figured out what LiDAR is.
Yes.
Or not LiDAR, we already talked about that.
Yeah, I did figure that out too. But
Figured out what microlensing.
Yeah, so I looked up this planet thing. Okay, so now I understand what's going on, sort of. But microlensing is where, so basically the planets are orbiting a star, okay? And sometimes during that orbit, they will pass in front of, like from our perspective, they will pass in front of another star that's more distant. Okay, so the planet's gravity will microlens the light from that star. Okay, so these guys are looking through Chandra data, which is like enormous. Okay, and they're looking for where some star is sitting out there and suddenly goes whoom, and just it weird
gets bright real quick.
Yeah, or it just like it smears or whatever it does. Right, so they're looking for that, and they found so much of it that they're saying that those are planets. Now, maybe they're not.
That was my point.
Yeah,
is that they don't. They're assuming they're planets because they're not emitting light directly.
Yeah, that's right. They have,
or at least
they have enough gravity to lens the star.
Yeah.
Right. But we don't know. I mean, like it could be any number of things. Because like really, like if you look at gravitational lensing, not microlensing, but if you look at gravitational lensing, what some of the best examples are from star clusters or galaxy clusters, right? So you have these enormous structures, like a cluster of galaxies. It's got like 100 galaxies in it, so you're looking at this thing that's got all these galaxies, and then there's more distant galaxies way past the cluster. But the light from those distant galaxies comes up towards us and has to pass through the cluster that is between us and those distant galaxies. And the light gets bent by the gravity of the whole cluster into these long streaks around it.
Right.
Okay. So
they're not seeing albedo from those planets.
Right, but what I'm pointing out with this is that large groups of little things can cause a gravitational lens. Like, in other words, a cluster of asteroids could cause lensing of some distant star and not be a planet. You know what I mean? But it is interesting how many of them they found in this incredibly distant galaxy. And yeah, they're right. We'll never actually see these in any way.
I'm wondering though if any of them are considering dark matter. Okay, what they think dark matter is.
Oh yeah.
Because they're one of the way they detected dark matter was by looking at galaxies.
Yeah.
They didn't detect it by anything close. It was they're looking at these massive structures.
Yeah.
And they're calculating what the mass must be to hold it all together, and it's way more than what they can see.
Yeah.
So now they do this study, and they find out that there's a whole bunch of shit that they can't see.
Yeah. Yeah. So you're suggesting that like, why aren't they thinking of dark matter instead of calling these planets? Like that.
Yeah. Well, even throwing it in, the hopper, basically.
I think because of what.
And I'm thinking of the way they think of dark matter, not the way I think of it. But
well, I mean, what they think of dark matter is like WIMPs, and WIMPs don't coagulate into large. You know what I mean? So like you can't get. I don't think you can get gravitational lensing from like a nebula cloud. It has to be sort of a kind of a consolidated object, or at least a bunch of them sort of making a circle or whatever. So like if they think dark matter is made up of something like WIMPs, like weakly interacting, weakly interacting something particles. Those don't
massy particles,
right? Those don't really. They won't form things like stars and planets. So I don't know. Maybe who knows? But you're right. It is strange that they didn't consider it to be dark matter. That could be dark matter making these microlensing effects.
Yeah. And what I was thinking in terms of elastic universe is that they may not be, they don't necessarily have to be planets at all. They can be gravitational fields with no mass in them.
Yeah. Yeah. In theory.
So that is a good way to falsify that hypothesis anyway.
Yeah.
That we could see if we can find gravitational microlensing where there isn't any, so if we looked at a galaxy that was close by where we should be able to see, the light or the albedo light from a planet or whatever.
I mean, I don't know.
They could look there, and if there's, look around in empty space, quote unquote empty space, and see if there's any lensing.
Right. And they'll assume that if there is, that there's
it's just something that they can't see, which is dark matter, man.
Right. Yeah. Any lensing they see, they're going to assume matter there causing it.
Right.
But whether it's dark or not.
So basically, this story kind of gives credence to the idea that perhaps. Yeah. I know it's 3.8 billion light years away or whatever, but still, perhaps the elastic universe hypothesis.
Yeah, and the other thing about gravitational lensing is it could be anywhere between you and the object you're looking at.
Yeah,
like all that lensing. Like think about it, it's 3 point whatever billion light years away. Well, there's a lot of shit in between us and that galaxy that could be causing all that lensing.
Right. So they're calling them rogue planets. Does it make sense to you now why they think they're rogue planets?
No. I mean, like, it doesn't really because, like, I would say
they seem to be too far away from stars. That was what I was thinking.
Right. So again, I would say you don't know where the lens is. Like
exactly.
Like unless you're specifically looking at a star and saying, does that star have planets? So you're looking in a very controlled space around that star where planets may orbit, right? Because the star has an equator. It has an equator or whatever, and the planets are going to be kind of orbiting on that plane, which limits the area where the planets could be, right? So if you see a microlensing happening in that area, then you know it's probably a planet orbiting that star, right? But if you're just seeing microlensing happening, like affecting stars all through this galaxy that's so distant, well, those lenses could be anywhere in between us and that galaxy.
Yeah, exactly.
But they're assuming that they're all in that galaxy.
I guess maybe they might be able to know based on the relative distance of the bodies of light that they can see versus the lens effect. Like if it was too far close to us outside of that galaxy, it may not be able to collect enough light to focus to give them that lens. Right? The lens would be bending really, really dim, scattered light, and it may not.
Yeah.
Maybe it's beneath the tolerance levels of what they were looking at.
Possibly.
I don't know.
I mean, because I know the gravity lensing I've looked at, you're basically seeing it takes the light that we would see, which is like this little dim point, and it kind of just smears it. It doesn't make it brighter or whatever.
Oh, okay.
Right. So, I mean, maybe it does make it brighter. I don't know, but it doesn't look like you're seeing something. You're not seeing a galaxy as like really big and badass and more detailed. You're kind of just seeing it smeared, like if you had a glass lens and there was a light source back there, and you sort of saw it. On the edge of the lens, yeah. Right? Smeared
Not
out.
necessarily brighter, but
right. Just
elongated.
Kind of whatever light you would have seen has been spread out in a weird way, in a weird arc. Yeah.
And focused in that way.
Yeah. Yeah, so it is strange. I would like to kind of look at the paper itself.
Yeah.
And be totally unable to understand it.
Yeah, I love that. That's great. So I have one of those, actually. Yeah.
All right, great. Lay it on us.
I think this is the last thing on my list. And it's about global warming.
All right.
And bear with me here.
It's cold in here.
Is it cold? Oh, yeah.
I had to put my jacket on.
Pretty cold.
Took away the rug, bro. It's cold now.
So my favorite physicist, Richard Feynman, I just like randomly was like, Richard Feynman, global warming. I looked it up. And sure enough, there's this story, and it's crazy, but the story was written, this was published on April 3rd, 2017. So somebody found this in his archives of lectures and was just like, bam.
This is like you and Tesla, right? It's like, why is this stuff being published right before you go look for it?
I know. But I'm going to read this. It's confusing to me, and I'm like still trying to. There's a lot of these things, these terms that he's talking about. I'll give you the gist.
Yeah, let's hear it.
Well, I'll go ahead and read it. Okay. The great physicist Richard Feynman adds to three other giants of physics, Maxwell, Clausius, and Carnot, or Carnot, I don't know, who have explained the quote-unquote greenhouse effect is solely a consequence of gravity, atmospheric mass, pressure, density, and heat capacities, and is not due to trapped radiation from IR active or greenhouse gas concentrations.
Yeah.
In his paper, Feynman gives his thought experiment example. He clearly states in the 6th paragraph, they're referring to his lecture.
Yeah, his paper. Okay.
It is, quote, in thermal equilibrium, unlike our atmosphere. He's pointing this out because he's the guy writing this story is pointing that out because he's wanting to say straight up, like, he's giving a thought experiment using, you know, how scientists will use like a simplified model of something. So he gets rid of a whole bunch of things about our atmosphere real quick just to talk about heat. Trapping heat. So he said it's in thermal equilibrium, unlike our atmosphere. Feynman explicitly states in that same paragraph that this thought experiment is, quote, without the winds and other kinds of disturbances, including convection, which he later shows completely dominates radiative convective equilibrium, thus discrediting the supposed CO2-focused radiative greenhouse gas effect. Feynman begins to explain in the 7th paragraph and for the remainder of the entire paper why our atmosphere, and he only assumes the atmosphere is comprised of non-greenhouse gases, N2 and O2, is not an isothermal atmosphere due to the thermodynamic work done by gravity upon all gases. So I don't know what an isothermal atmosphere is, but anyway, he says only one 33C greenhouse theory can be correct. Either the 33C Arrhenius radiative greenhouse theory, the basis of CAGW, alarm, and climate models, or the 33C Maxwell, Clausius, Carnot, Feynman gravitothermal greenhouse effect.
Okay.
Since if both are true, the surface temperature would be an additional 33 degrees Celsius warmer than the present.
Wait a minute. 33 degree. What?
Yeah. Okay, so this is hard to follow.
No, this is cool. I'm following it.
Okay, he goes on and on. Feynman does not make a single mention of radiation, radiative transfer, greenhouse gases, CO2, nor does he derive any radiative transfer equations to derive the atmospheric temperature profile, and instead utilizes the barometric and statistical mechanics formulas necessary to describe the gravitothermal greenhouse effect of Maxwell et al., who he quotes extensively below. So he demonstrates that the conservative force of gravity does indeed do continuous thermodynamic work upon the atmosphere. A common false argument by those who do not accept the gravitothermal GHE theory is that gravity allegedly can't do work upon the atmosphere. Wow. So they think that gravity's not doing it. And like, I've listened to a bunch of Feynman's lectures about heat and all this stuff. And heat is basically the motion of atoms.
Yeah.
It's how much they're jiggling around.
Right.
They're jiggling.
Yeah.
So he'll describe a situation with the, kind of like the pool balls or whatever, or like with a piston.
Yeah.
And the piston's moving down, compressing, and there's like molecules in there and they're all just kind of cruising around. And as the piston moves down, the molecules that are going towards it bump into it and then get sped up by it, and there's less room for them to go, so they run into other ones, and
friction.
Yeah, they all start going fast.
Yeah,
because the piston's continuing to move towards them, and then as the piston, like once it gets down there, it's all getting hot because they're all hauling ass.
Right.
And then as the piston moves away, it's pulling away. So any atoms that go towards the piston, when they bounce off, they're going slower than they were going before.
Right.
And so they don't hit as many other atoms as they were before. And eventually it's cool. It cools down. It gets cold. So as far as I got with this, aside from all the other terminology, is that basically what Feynman's point is, this idea that we have radiation trapping because of a gas that's like not allowing energy to escape. And when we're talking about energy, heat, we're just talking about motions of atoms.
Right.
Being fast.
And the stuff they're not allowing to escape is the sunlight, the photons from the sun. Right. Like the whole idea with the carbon being a greenhouse gas is that we know that if you put carbon in front of a light source, that light source contains the entire electromagnetic spectrum, you can tell that there's carbon there because some of that spectrum will have been blocked by the carbon, right? Yeah. So it absorbs it, okay? So the idea that carbon is a greenhouse gas is that we know that it absorbs this particular part of the light. So the idea is that the sunlight will come down, and then when it bounces off and tries to go back out, it can't get out.
Right, but when it can't get out, so let's just say that the idea is if those things can't get out, what's the result?
Yeah.
Heat. Right?
Yeah.
Which is atoms moving around faster.
Right.
So his point is that, at least I think, is that idea that is what causes the temperature of the atmosphere to be what it is bullshit. It's gravity. Gravity is the piston that's pushing down on the atmosphere, always compressing the atoms.
Yeah.
So perhaps, I guess, thinking about it in the way that you're describing, where these photons come down and they run into shit, and so they speed up some atoms.
Yeah, some of the wavelengths get absorbed. Yeah,
right. And so their speed, I don't know. I guess
also isothermal is an isothermal process is something that changes a system without changing the temperature.
Oh, okay. All right, I'm just gonna, before I start fucking armchair theorizing here, let me get to these. This is a direct quote. Thus, the temperature is a function of and an effect of gravity / molecular mass, not the other way around. From greenhouse gas, quote, radiative forcing or back radiation, irradiance or back radiation from greenhouse gases is in turn a function of the fourth power of temperature. By the Stefan-Boltzmann equation.
Boltzmann.
Not the cause of the temperature to begin with. So he's saying, I don't think temperature is a function of anything. Everything is a function of temperature.
Yeah.
Solid mass starts glowing at the same temperature, the Draper point. That is confirming that emitted power and temperature is a general independent relationship, and the emission is dependent on temperature as well as absorption.
Yeah.
So
anything, once you get it vibrating enough, is going to start putting out visible light, no matter what material it is. Therefore, it starts to glow all at the same levels.
Yeah. There is no way around the fact that the only independent energy involved is temperature.
Yeah.
So I just thought that was pretty cool. Like,
yeah. So if you have
I don't fully grasp it yet.
If you have an air compressor, when you're compressing that air, it's warming it up, right?
Right.
Like, and you know this because if you release the air all real fast, if you like open the valve basically on the tank, and the air's like psh, comes out, like the ice will form around the valve because as that air decompresses, right, it gets cold as hell. So like the idea that gravity is the compressor pump in this case. And so we have this enormous atmosphere of the Earth, and down at the surface, down on the surface level, the atmosphere has collectively been compressed by gravity.
Right.
Right. So that's why it is the temperature it is. In other words, if somehow the Earth gained mass, we would be able to have a bigger atmosphere, and it would be hotter at the surface because the pressure would be higher.
Yeah. If mass is a function, or if gravity is a function of mass. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. If the gravity increased, period.
Okay, so I have a question then. This idea of greenhouse gas, and you're talking about not letting these photons, like the photons,
they're either absorbing it as they come in, or or absorbing them as they go back out. Yeah, either way.
Okay, so I'm trying trying to figure this out. Like they're thinking that because if the photon is not hitting, if not running in anything, it's not heating anything up.
Yeah.
Right. So once it starts to run into shit,
Yeah.
it starts moving stuff.
Yeah.
And then it gets hot. So the greenhouse gas supposedly is a gas that
Absorbs more photons.
it's getting hit by more and more photons.
Or like it has the ability, like in other words, like a lot of times a photon will hit an atom and that like the electron will jump on that atom, but then it immediately releases it and the photon goes off again. Right. Okay. So like the greenhouse materials, the greenhouse elements or whatever are able to retain they're able to keep it sort of. They can hold it, you know, and they'll release it later. But the idea is that it contains the heat within the system. So
photons make them hot.
Yeah.
Or get the atoms moving faster.
Right.
And then they keep moving faster for a while.
Right. And I think what part of what Feynman is saying is that like the pressure is what really is making them hot because they're all experiencing that all the time. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I agree with that. Like what did you say at the beginning? Like it gets colder as you go up.
Right. Yeah.
As the pressure goes down.
So in what system, right? Like you have this idea that cold air falls or cold falls and heat rises, right?
Yeah.
Cold is less buoyant than hot air, or cold gas is less buoyant than hot gas.
Right.
So it sinks. Well, it's not that way here. Like it is.
It is. It's constantly
on micro levels, right? Like,
or there's a convection. Like he said he ignores the convection. Yeah. So like the cold air from up there is constantly trying to drop, but it's meeting the hot air from down here trying to rise.
Right, but at the same time, it's cold up there because the
pressure's low.
There's lower pressure, right? Lower temperature, lower pressure.
So as it drops, it heats up.
Yeah, as it's going down, it's running into a whole bunch of shit getting hot.
Yeah. And also, the farther down it goes, it's underneath more air, which is where the pressure is coming from.
Right.
Right. Like you can either look at it as like, well, the gravity is causing the pressure, or the fact that we're sitting underneath all this stuff stacked up on top of us.
But if you're looking at it in terms of atoms moving around,
yeah.
If one atom is not moving around very much and it starts to fall,
it's going to start running into shit.
It's going to start running into more and more shit. And the further it falls, the more densely packed all the atoms are.
Right. And it runs into more and more. And so it starts moving around more and gets hotter. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's weird because there's no pressure analog, like pressure system analog that we have that has a gradient pressure.
Right. You have like here, there's no cap on the container.
Right.
It's just a fucking open container.
Right. It's a container that's being held, or the pressure is being caused by a force that acts in tandem, like it acts on everything all at once in little bits, and so those things have to stack for it to operate.
Yeah.
Right. Like if you go deep down underwater, the reason the pressure is so high is because you got all this water on top of you.
It's kind of a beautiful.
And that water's heavy.
A beautiful thing, like this sort of equilibrium between this idea of greenhouse gases, that where these photons are coming in from outer space and they're heating up these greenhouse gases. Well, then the greenhouse gases naturally are going to want to rise up because they're trying to, they're actually pushing other atoms further away from them, making them less densely packed.
Yeah.
And they become more buoyant. They go up and then they get into a vacuum.
Yeah.
And as they get into the vacuum, they have to cool down. And then on the surface down here, like cold air is settling in all the lowest areas. Yeah. So you've got like this cooling effect on the lowest areas, and
it's convection, it's constant.
Yeah, it's badass how.
That's why hurricanes are called the air conditioner of the planet, right? Because the action of a hurricane, it causes this huge vortex, and right there at the eye, where the vortex is the thickest, right? It's got this enormous vortex that reaches way up high into the atmosphere, and it reaches all the way down to the surface of the ocean or wherever the thing is forming, and it causes this enormous exchange. It allows that cold air to drop all the way to the surface, and it pushes that hot air way up high.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's basically an air conditioner.
Yeah.
Right? It cools the planet off, and it gets the cool from space.
That's fucking badass.
Like, I mean, obviously cold isn't anything. It's just a lack of heat, but it's funny to say it that way. It takes the cold from space and puts it down here.
Yeah.
Yeah, Brett's putting all kinds of stuff on the screen here.
Yeah, so I wouldn't go so far as to say... Actually, I would not use this in an argument with somebody about global warming. the way I look at it, and we've talked about this before, is that the climate changes, and that is whether or not we're here.
Yeah.
Climate does not give a fuck who's here.
Right.
Like it's
too big.
Yeah, it's too big. But in any case, the basis for all of the current global warming climate data is this idea of the greenhouse effect based on greenhouse gases, that these gases are collecting the heat, trapping the heat, and that is the thing that's causing this quote unquote global warming. So if you look at it like, well, the globe goes through warming and cooling periods. Okay. We know this. We know this already. We've had ice ages and we're in a warmer period now.
Yeah.
That's one way to think about it, to just kind of like get rid of all the minutia. But then if you also realize that this idea of greenhouse of these gases that are trapping heat being the cause, according to the climate scientists, that is actually a theory.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is what there actually is an argument going on that we're not hearing about in the media ever.
Yeah. Okay, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
That there are like some of the most famous physicists in the world have totally disagreed with this fucking idea.
Yeah. Well, you can question the theory of greenhouse gases just like you can question the theory of gravity by jumping out of a fucking window.
I just think it's important, whether or not like I fully understand what they're talking about, or whether or not Feynman, that I could say, oh, because I trust Feynman, he's right. He's been wrong before about shit.
Yeah.
And he's admitted it, but it doesn't matter. The point is that we're not given the idea. It is not portrayed in the media that there is an argument at all.
There's no debate. It's science settled.
And there's no one even talking about the idea that greenhouse gases are trapping heat and a major cause of heat staying here or not. That's actually a theory, dude.
Right. I mean, to me, like, I think that's cool because, like, I don't know, like, why haven't we thought of this already? Because we deal with pressure and stuff all the time, and we are always talking about how you compress it and it gets hot. But like for me, the end of that whole argument was like once I realized, like, okay, if you take the sun out of the equation, just imagine Earth and everything, and like you just kind of the sun just disappears, right? The Earth continues to go around the spot, but there's just no sun. What happens? The Earth drops to absolute zero. All the gases freeze, and you have no climate. It becomes a solid, unmoving. All the atoms are at absolute zero, the cold of space. They don't vibrate at all. Okay? So to me, that is like, it doesn't matter what gas you've got. If you remove the sun, there is no greenhousing of anything.
Yeah.
Right? So in other words, it's the sun that it's the reason. The reason we have an atmosphere of gas is because the sun is there to keep us warm enough for that gas to not be a solid.
Be a gas, yeah.
Yeah. Okay? So like the idea that some of those gases in there are causing like catastrophic changes on the planet in terms of temperature, when all of our temperature, anything above absolute zero that we have on this planet, is because of the sun. Like, in other words, like the gases are like, they're not even secondary. They're like third or fourth or fifth effects.
Yeah.
Like,
and possibly not really an effect
at all. Yeah. I'm just saying like assuming that there is greenhousing, because we do know that like water vapor in the atmosphere is a major greenhouse effect.
Yeah.
Like that is the biggest greenhouse, and they don't talk about that either. Like a cloud over top of you will hold in the heat. Like if you ever notice, if it's like it's going to be really cold, but you get a solid cloud cover, it doesn't get as cold. But if those clouds clear and you can see all the way up into space, it gets cold as fuck, right? Because those clouds are holding in the heat. So
yeah, so I guess in that respect, like. Because another thing that I've read is that water vapor is the biggest, like the largest volume of greenhouse gas that we have. It makes up like 98% of all greenhouse gases in the atmosphere.
But we're not thinking about that in terms of catastrophic climate change, because that isn't useful.
Yeah. There's like the other 2%, and then CO2 is like 0.2 or is 2% of that other 2%. So it's 0.2%.
Yeah, and CO2 is...
Or it's 0.02% of all greenhouse gases.
0.002%. Yeah, because CO2 is a trace gas. I mean, 400 parts per million is what we're at right now. 400 parts per million. And what they're flipping out about is if we reach 450. So like if you had, what did Randall Carlson say? If you had a fish tank.
Oh shit.
What?
Brett.
What is he
nailed
saying?
it. Okay, Feynman is saying. He was
Global warming.
He was talking about two theories.
Yeah,
The theory of greenhouse gases being the cause, or the theory of gravitic thermo whatever.
Oh, that's what the isothermal.
So what Feynman is saying is that if both theories are true, then the increase of temperature would be way higher, 33 degrees Celsius higher. So either pressure is irrelevant, which we know it is not.
Right. Or the special gas
gas theory is bullshit.
That's right. Yeah. Okay. So he says global warming attempts to say that certain gases are special and constant pressure and volume don't change, but the specific gases involved make temperature different because those gases have special properties.
I see.
Okay.
So yeah.
So Feynman is saying that if both of the theories are true, then the increase of temperature would be way higher. Right. So we know that pressure causes temperature changes in whatever is being pressed. Right. Global warming is basically saying that there are specific gases that are isothermal. Like you can change stuff about them, but the temperature doesn't change. Right. And Feynman was basically saying, well, we know pressure has a big effect on temperature. And if both of these things are true, then the temperature rise would be massive. That isn't happening. So the special gas theory is bullshit. Yeah. That's pretty badass.
Thank you, Brett.
Thanks, Brett. Yeah.
I knew
that cleared it up.
I was telling Russ, like, I've got this thing and I need help because I was like reading the story over and over. And then I actually finally found the original Feynman paper.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Okay. And I haven't had time to read it. But that's Feynman says things and I understand it. Like this guy who is talking about what Feynman says, he's probably doing a great job, but I didn't get it.
Feynman
he just has a way of saying things that for some reason I'm just like, oh shit.
Yeah, Feynman clearly had a gift of oratory and I mean even in writing, he had a gift of communication. Period. Yeah, but he was also a consummate materialist, so fuck him.
It's kind of an endearing fucking flaw. Anyway, we got to take another break.
So don't worry, guys. Global warming is bullshit.
Yeah. So
climate change is real.
Yeah.
But it's not because of us.
Yeah. So basically, what we need to try to do is be snakes because they're cold-blooded and they don't care. It's warm or cold.
They just slow down when it gets cold, and then if it gets hot, they speed up.
They're just like atoms.
That's right.
All right. Snakes.
Whoa. It's greenhouse snakes. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Brothers of the Serpent podcast, coming to you not live from the 10 by 10 by 10 Tangent Cube of Science, where we have half our pyramids tied behind our backs just to make it square. So I've got these topics. I've got these Ivan T. Sanderson books, right? I'm sure everybody knows who that is, right?
Yeah.
He's a like the consummate scientist, like a real one. Like my favorite thing was like when I first got his book, and I got it because I was looking for something that was just generally about mysterious stuff, not about any particular kind. Not missing people. It's not about UFOs. It's just about anything, just mysterious shit. I just wanted a sort of a compendium, like somebody who's like looked at mysterious stuff all over the world and said, so here's just a bunch of weird shit. That's what I was looking for. And this thing came up. His book came up. It was like Unexplained is what is the title. And I'm like,
The Unexplained.
Right. And I'm like, so you wrote a book so you didn't explain anything in the book. So
welcome back to The Unexplained.
Is that guy? The guy that does that podcast, The Unexplained, his voice is fucking awesome.
Oh, you're talking about...
and now we have some great people who have sent me emails on The Unexplained. Thank you.
Yeah, he's a British guy, right? Mm-hmm. He's got the same name as... I know what you're talking about. He's got the best radio voice ever.
Yeah. Check it out. The Unexplained. It's a great podcast.
Yeah. So in the beginning of this book, The Unexplained, he starts out by explaining to you how he realized that the academic life was not for him, right? So he gets tenure or whatever, and he's at this, I can't remember which college it was, but he's at some university, and they're having a big meeting or whatever, and somewhere in the meeting for some reason, so he's a biologist, like particularly he studies creatures, like he's interested in animals of all kinds, right? Mm-hmm. So they're in the meeting or whatever, and he mentions some flying snakes in Indonesia, right? And he's like, and like there's an engineer that suggests like kicking him out of the college for talking about bullshit, like, and he's like, wait a minute. No, the guy was a geologist. Sorry. So he goes on this long thing about how like, okay, I can't expect a geologist to know about the flying snakes of Indonesia. Like they are real, but this guy clearly thought that they weren't. And not only that, but this guy was detecting some forbidden topic here, like flying snakes, dragons, a little too close to dragons. Dragons are mythical. We know they're mythical. You can't talk about those. And this guy brought it up like it's a serious topic. We should kick him out of the college, right? So
makes sense.
Yeah. So he basically was like, he just realized, okay, I've joined science because my idea of science was that we realized that we know almost nothing, right? But this college, this university, and academia in general is full of what he calls them stuffed shirts. These stuffed shirts that think that they know fucking everything.
Yeah.
Right? So like
stuffed shirts.
Yeah, these stuffed shirts. So
educated idiots.
This guy's a geologist, and like he hears me say something about flying snakes, and he makes all these connections in his mind that's clearly bullshit because he has a paradigm that he's going off of, and he wants to kick me out of the college. So that was the very beginning. He's basically like, science is about realizing that we know almost nothing. Right. And so I can't hang out with these academics because they fucking think they know everything. So he went into the field. He basically went to the head of the college, the dean, prepared to like quit. First he's gonna throw a huge.
I quit.
Yeah, he's gonna throw a huge temper tantrum, and like he had it all planned out because like somewhere in there he was gonna be threatening to quit and throwing a temper tantrum, but he's also gonna propose that he go and do field work, right?
Yeah.
And when he goes, he said he walked in and the guy was looking at him and kind of smiled and said, "I've been wondering when you were going to show up." And then that guy proposes to him exactly what he was going to propose. Like, I think you should go out in the field. So he does.
Sweet.
Yeah. And he talked about the difference between search and research, that science is primarily about the search for new information. Research is what you do back at the library, where you're going through all of other people's data from their searches and you're researching the information from their search.
Oh, that's great.
Okay.
I like that.
So he's
researching.
Yeah. He's like, fuck research. Not enough people doing the search. So that's what he spent the rest of his life out there in the field, all over the world, looking for the most anomalous shit that he could find. Like he basically so a lot of the book is about that.
Man, that sounds like a great book.
Yeah. It was a fascinating book. I read it in like 2 days. It was just like, I couldn't put it down. So anyway, one of the anomalies, like he goes through all these different anomalies in here. Like he basically, at the very beginning of the book, after that, he shows you that what he calls the northern hemisphere long necks, okay, a type of animal. There's no question that they exist anymore. Like the debate over that has ceased, that these things are real. And basically what I'm talking about is Loch Ness. The Loch Ness type monster, okay, which most people still consider to be a cryptid that's unproven. It's no longer like that. Like the first chapter, he does that. He's like, yeah, so these are real. Okay. And he gives you all this data. And I was like, holy shit.
When was this book published? When was that guy alive?
He's still alive.
Okay. Badass.
Yeah. Yeah. Mr. Ivan T. Sanderson. Okay. So I want to start from chapter 14 of this book. It's called Rainmaking and Cloud Busting. Now, this was not on my radar at all. Okay. I mean, I knew about it, but I didn't know that there was anything really going on with this or whatever. So the beginning of the chapter is cool because he starts out with something that has driven me nuts for a long time, which is the whole coincidence. Like people are like, well, that's just a coincidence, right?
Yeah.
So you'll show them some like extraordinary string of events, and they'll say, well, that's just coincidental.
Yeah.
Okay. So he's like, before I get cracking on this rather cheery subject, when he's talking about the rainmaking, I absolutely must do what I can to clarify another one, which is always getting in the way, and which is a positive pest in this case. This is an intangible, if there ever was one, called coincidence, but which we designate simply as K. Everybody, from the veriest moron to Albert Einstein, has from time immemorial invoked this quote-unquote force as a last resort to explain anything that he or she has been unable to do so otherwise, which is a sorry commentary on our intelligence. Nevertheless, by placing such a flat statement firmly on the record, I may perhaps be excused for pointing up the fact that we don't know much about anything, or anything much about everything. What people presumably mean by coincidence has never been defined, and only one man that I know of has ever tried to investigate it per se. In fact, while it is dragged into everyday life and even into scientific investigation almost ad nauseum, it has no validity or even any real existence as of now. As an item, K, or coincidence, may best be equated with that almost equally abstruse bit of chicanery so beloved of insurance companies and expressed as, quote, an act of God, unquote. And then he has an aside where he's like, why, if God's the good guy, why is he held responsible for all the super disasters? Like, okay. So this coincidence business gets into the act, and in a most noxious manner, in practically every case of the unexplained. For, in the vast majority of cases, it is given as the final explanation. And not only by ordinary folks, but almost invariably by experts, and in some cases by real experts. However, as I pointed out above, none of these good people have the foggiest notion what they are talking about, and simply because they still apparently cannot define this thing or force called coincidence. Mathematicians and advanced physicists have tackled the issue in circumstantial and very circumspect way by trying to establish laws of probability, done, improbability, partly done, possibility, assumed, and impossibility, absolutely insisted on, though without one iota of supporting evidence or even any reasons given. Okay, so speaking of the last, I cannot refrain from referring to a modest interchange that I had a couple of years ago with a frightfully clever scientist of positively terrific standing. Said interchange was brought on by an article I had published on Forteanism, which is the study of all things strange, in which I noted that anybody who still continued to state that anything must be impossible is an idiot. So basically, he's like saying, like, anybody who thinks that you can say something must be impossible, they're dumb. Okay. This scientific pundit wrote somewhat furiously, and as from a considerable throne in an ivory tower identified by his letterhead, giving me 5, quote, impossibilities. 2 of these simply didn't apply because the poor fellow apparently did not really know the problem. The most notable being the old saw about the impossibility of squaring a circle. This, of course, is a pure example of a lack of semantic exactitude, because what is meant is that the area of a circle cannot be computed precisely by mathematical procedure. Which is true, because you got pi. Pi is, yeah. Although it can, of course, be so with a piece of string and 4 pins. At the other extreme of his examples was the equally old saw about being unable to checkmate a queen at chess, as it is now played in the West. The answer to this one, of course, is change the rules. Point is, in not one case did he give any reasons for stating that the problem was unsolvable and therefore impossible. But back to the business of K. Okay, the man I mentioned above, who has tried to do something about this, is a very old friend, a brilliant editor of technical and scientific texts, a profound Fortean by the name of Peter Kamichis. Okay, so I'll skip some of this here, but basically he goes into explaining to you the different levels of coincidence. Okay, so the simplest, or K1, is everyday occurrence, like 2 people with exactly the same rather rare names meeting at a cocktail party. Or you pick up the telephone and getting a wrong number only to find out that it is one of your oldest friends whom you have not heard from for years, right? This is random. Junior K or junior grade K happens to practically everybody at least once a day in one form or another, even if the average person concerned seldom recognizes the fact. The next thing that emerged from the study was that you can have Ks up to the power of at least 20. That's as far as Peter had got the last time I talked to him. This means that the same thing happens over and over and over again. However, this is where the complexity begins, because the circumstances and factors themselves begin to vary, and these too may display a K series of their own. So this guy's trying to define coincidence. Yeah. Okay, define as a force.
I get it. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Nevertheless, and for all this complexity, and even if there is a perfectly pragmatic set of natural laws governing coincidence, nobody has any right whatsoever to invoke it as an explanation of anything until we have defined those laws and tested them. And this should apply most stringently to the subject now at issue, so that I refuse to waste your time by quoting anybody who puts coincidence forward as an explanation of the upcoming subjects. Okay.
That's cool.
Yeah. So it just gets rid of the whole coincidence problem right off the bat. Okay, so now to the subject here. Claims that rain can be artificially induced to fall are among the most persistent reports in both the written annals and the traditions of just about all peoples. There would now be, it seems, at least an identifiable reason for this belief, regardless of whether any such accomplishment was ever valid or not. Okay. let's see. So he goes through this very interesting thing that I was dimly aware of, but not really. I hadn't really read about it in detail, which was that there's a lot of evidence pointing to the idea that the original conceptualization of an idea of a god or a religion or whatever, of spiritual beliefs, was that the earth was the mother and the father was in the sky, and they knew this because rain caused life on earth, so it was the semen of God. Okay. All right. So you have this.
Makes sense.
Yeah. So it's very simple, but it's profound. Okay. So because if you imagine yourself as a non-technological, sort of a primitive human, you're like, okay, water is totally heavy. It falls. How can it be up in the sky in enormous quantities like we get when we have a rainstorm? How does that even, how's that possible? Right. Well, it must be coming from God, right? Water can't sit in the sky. So when it falls, it's a gift from God or whatever.
Yeah.
And then we see that when it falls, it causes life. So it's it is like fertilizing the earth.
Yeah.
Right. Causing life to grow. So this guy, he goes through how this is connected to these rain dances and the idea of you're praying for life. Okay.
Yeah.
So let's see. Okay, up until now, it has apparently been more or less assumed that the profession of rainmaking was a sort of generative myth of the people of the deserts and other drier areas of the Earth's surface where rain was either virtually unknown, unreliable in its incidence, or totally unpredictable. Naturally, any fall of rain, coincidental or otherwise, would be more noticeable in such areas. But it is now clear that the whole idea of rainmaking is just as prevalent and has been going on just as long in the moist and even the very, very wet areas of the world, such as the periphery of the Amazon basin, the Congo basin, and throughout the whole Indo-Malayan area. Okay. Nor is the concept any rarer in the damp western and northern tier of Eurasia. In these wet areas, however, there is a complementary claim made that is of particular interest to us. This is the insistence that rain can, conversely, be prevented or stopped. That's cloud busting. All right. So you have the rain dance for the Native Americans, cloud busting is where you do the opposite dance and make it stop, make it not happen. Okay. Too much rain.
That's awesome.
I've always had a sneaking feeling that the Amerins, which is American Indians, notably those of North America, who have suffered most from the unasked for intrusion of us Europeans and Africans, have always been ploying us with this whole business of rain making. In support of this contention, let me cite the following little stories. Okay, so in Oklahoma, Apache Indians from New Mexico yesterday showed this drought-stricken area the power of their medicine dancing. They performed their ancient, quote, rainbow dance, a ceremonial for rain, at the American Indian Exposition on Monday night. The clear skies clouded over and a steady rain soaked the exposition grounds yesterday morning. 4 years ago, Kiowa tribal dancers performed their forbidden sun dance over the protests of Indian officials of the expedition. Their plea for rain worked just as rapidly as that of the Apaches this year. A deluge started the next morning and continued for 6 days with the disastrous results on the expedition's attendance.
Oh, shit.
2, Las Vegas, Nevada. This desert resort will think twice about inviting the Jemez Indians again for El Dorado week. In the parade last Thursday, the New Mexico tribe did a rain dance. It has rained every day since then in this arid city, whose slogan is fun in the sun. Durango, Colorado. Results. That's what the Navajo Indians get when they go after a good rain. Tribesmen sent here to fight a forest fire raging through the Mesa Verde National Forest gave a rain dance for the gods' pleasure. 2 days and nights of the primitive rites resulted in a downpour that greatly facilitated the work of fighting the fires. 4.
That's what they need in California, man.
Yeah, 4. I do not know whether this act was pro or con. He's like, I don't know if they were doing this as a good thing or they were doing it as bad. Yeah. 3 Pueblos did a brief ceremonial rain dance at the Gianni Food Fair at 1145 Market Street in San Francisco at 10 a.m. this morning on the 12th of December, 1960. And 2 hours later, rain fell all over San Francisco for the first time in 85 days. Okay, so events like this make me feel much better, is what he says. I have always felt complimented when I have been called an Indian lover, since I have over the years learned to truly love and respect these people. I have, incidentally, 16 Mayan Indian godchildren. They carry the wisdom of the ages, and although terribly fatalistic to our way of thinking, their sense of humor is delicious. They are gentle folk, and I am not at all sure that they won't win out over us brash barbarians in the long run. Actually, a true and workable ability to make rain or make it go away is just the sort of gimmick that they might hold on to themselves, even after we have taken away all their land and destroyed their material culture. But I pontificate. So it is an odd but notable fact that rainmaking seems almost always to be accompanied by and induced by dancing. And not only among our Amerindian friends, the same crops up in West and Central Africa, in southern India, Indonesia, and among the Aborigines of Australia. The Yakuts of northeastern Siberia go through similar dreary and prolonged routines to get their autumn snows going on time. Nor are these the only chaps who seem to be able to put on a good act. Some of the popular accounts, and most of them seem to come from the normally rather stuffy news services, are often exquisite. For instance, tribesmen, the Bunduking in South Africa, plagued by a long drought, asked German missionary O. Brummerhoff to pray for rain. Nothing happened. So the tribesmen went off into the mountains and prayed to their own gods, and it poured. Then they complained to the local district court that missionary Brummerhoff criticized their action in a sermon. The tribesmen told the court that they had asked the Herman's mission to remove Brummerhoff, but the mission refused. So they asked the court to eject the entire mission from their territory, where it had operated for the past 82 years, and the court agreed.
Oh, shit.
Meanwhile, in neighboring Swaziland, they reported once that during the South African tour of 1947, the King of England had a chance to meet a real autocratic ruler, Paramount Chief Sobhuza Dlamini II of Swaziland. With him was his queen mother, who, quote, commands the heavens, unquote. Before the British royal party arrived, the queen mother called for rain to lay the dust down. It rained. Then she called for sunshine, which burst forth just as George VI and his family arrived. I must, murmured the British king, tell mother about this. So dancing and incantation is not, however, the only method employed as an adjunct to this business. One other is best exemplified by a large block of soapstone. This is badass. Weighing 2 tons, which was apparently shaped and then transported to what is now Siskiyou County in Northern California many generations ago by the Hupa Huac tribal group that still inhabits the Klamath River Valley and adjacent areas. This is a massive flat-topped block with some 48 roughly circular holes apparently somehow ground into its upper surface. Its location was known to all the Amerins in that area, although it had been buried since before the coming of the white man. And it had been buried not only because it was greatly revered, but because it was considered extremely dangerous if left uncovered. Then one day in 1959, a road building crew inadvertently uncovered it. When the dozens of Huroks learned of this from a member of his band who was running the bulldozer, he immediately issued a warning to the local authorities. This was, of course, totally ignored. And perhaps rather naturally, since said authorities were palefaces. The old American Indian gentleman stated very simply that uncovering the stone would bring on excessive rain or even snow. And it did, 5 inches of the latter in one go, which was unprecedented in that area of mild oceanic climate at low altitudes at that time of year. By then, somewhat rattled, authorities reluctantly permitted the rock to be covered over with a thick layer of mud and clay, and its position marked. Then in 1966, some amateur folklore addicts uncovered it to take photographs, and they apparently banged on it because the next day, the disastrous floods got started that washed out most of the new roads and cleaned out all the gullies and creeks throughout the whole area. This time, the American Indians took matters into their own hands and buried the damn thing really deep and removed the marker. Their tradition had it that their ancestors, while bringing on rain when needed in dry spells, simply by uncovering this rock, had to be very careful because banging on it brought excessive rain and snowfalls that sometimes could not be stopped before they caused floods. But the real trouble was that the local deer used to climb aboard the rock and jump up and down on it, so allegedly producing the same results, and this is why they covered it. Okay, so then he goes through some stories about... this is really weird. In the old song, the rain falls mainly in the plain, but in Costa Mesa, California, the rain falls wherever William Payne places his little clay replicas of an ancient Indian rain god, Cosijo. When Payne, an art instructor at Orange College, set the ugly little statues out in fields last November, Southern California got the heaviest rainfall in its history. On 9 other occasions when rain was needed, Payne put the little Cosijos in the fields, and precipitation ranging from drizzles to downpours resulted. Sure, I believe he brings rain, Payne told me when I talked with him at the college. My students believe it too, at least until after the final. If Cosijo was good enough for the Zapotec Indians of Old Mexico, he's good enough for me. The Zapotecs believed that if they placed stone likenesses of the god face up in the fields, they'd get rain. But according to their legends, the faces of Cosijo were good for only one downpour. So Payne, following the tribal custom, molds fresh images of Cosijo after every successful performance. The Indians believed that Cosijo worked because he was so ugly, he says. He was designed to scare the heavens into letting loose with the water. Doesn't Payne perhaps check with the Weather Bureau before making up a batch of Cosijo images? I asked. No, I never check with the weatherman, he said. Cosijo just works and that's it. So yeah, the whole chapter is full of. I've never heard any of these stories of like rain dances totally bringing, and so you could see why he went with the coincidence stuff at the beginning, because people are gonna be like, well, it's just a coincidence. Like they do the dance and there was a flood. It's a coincidence.
Yeah.
Right. In 2 blazing hot years, only 2 inches of rain had fallen on the parched earth around San Diego, California. By January of 1916, the city was on the brink of disaster for want of water. It had been 3 months since the last feeble shower. The reservoirs were virtually dry. At the risk of being regarded as idiots, the city council voted to employ the services of a professional rainmaker. They had been bombarded with proposals from Charles Mallory Hatfield, a former sewing machine salesman who claimed he could induce rain for a fee. He got the job. He had noticed, he said, that after great battles, there were often great storms. He had also noticed that during great battles, clouds of cannon smoke rose into the skies. And to Hatfield, this constituted evidence that the burnt powder had, as he put it, upset the balance of the nature in the air. Once upset, clouds formed and rain fell, said Hatfield. For several years, he had experimented on his father's farm in Kansas, setting up huge wooden tubs on towers, tubs from which clouds of chemical vapors drifted aloft. Rains came, torrential rains sometimes, and Hatfield found there were those who would pay him extremely well for his services. For example, the farmers of California's San Joaquin Valley hired him year after year to provide them with bountiful rains. They paid him $10,000 a year and were happy with the results. The miners of Dawson City, Alaska paid him $21,000 to provide water for their dry sluice boxes. So when San Diego finally turned to Hatfield in January of 1916, it was not dealing with an unknown. San Diego's main source of supply was Lake Morena, a man-made reservoir, which had never been more than 1/3 full in its 20 years' existence. When Hatfield arrived on the scene, the lake was a hot, stinking mud hole. He made the city 2 offers: $1,000 an inch for each inch of rain that followed his efforts, or $10,000 for which he would fill the lake that had never been filled. For several days, the city council stalled, vainly hoping that nature would provide the water. But when the 4th day dawned hot and cloudless, they hired Hatfield. And when he put the workmen to work setting up his tall wooden towers, within 24 hours after those towers began sending their evil-smelling vapors to the skies, rain began to fall. Crowds stood in the streets to cheer Hatfield. But rejoicing didn't last long. On the 3rd consecutive day of rain, the San Diego expedition was washed out. The Tijuana racetrack was flooded. Telegraph and telephone lines were knocked down. Railroad bridges were swept away, and still the rains came. Otay and Sweetwater reservoirs filled, overflowed, and finally burst their earthen dams and thundered down the valley.
Oh, my God.
A 50-foot wall of water carried 50 persons to their deaths. Troops were called in for emergency duty. Lake Morena filled and overflowed for the first time in its history. Then Hatfield turned off his towers and went to collect his money. The city, busy digging out of the flood, refused to pay him, and years later his lawsuit was finally dismissed. Scientists declared that Hatfield was a fraud and that his method could not work. But before Hatfield died in 1958, he lived to see scientists making rain by sending chemical vapors into the air, just as he had done 42 years before.
Jesus Christ, that sucks.
He says, somehow this gives me a rather fiendish delight because it has so many facets that distresses this stuff's shirts. First, it sort of backs up my beloved American Indians with their smoke signals. Second, it apparently worked, so denigrating the pontifications of that fraternity. And third, it was purely mechanical and pragmatic. And fourth, it overworked, which evokes still another repetition of good old Charlie Ford's expression, don't wish for anything too much, you might just get it. Okay, so I wanted to... There's a bunch more of rainmaking, like lots of fantastic stories. But at the end, he goes into this thing where they start cloud busting. Okay, here it is. We, along with about a dozen other people, went to the roof of a large 3-story building in Florida. It was a magnificent spring day as we looked at the long stream of cumulus clouds that moved lazily over the ocean at the very blue Miami sky. Of the hundreds of clouds we could see from our vantage point, Alexander told me to pick one. I did. I pointed it out, described it, and there was a general agreement among the other onlookers as to which cloud I meant. Alexander then stepped forward, thrust his hands into his pockets, and I stood behind him telling a tape recorder what was happening. In a little over 5 minutes, that cloud, and only that cloud, had all but disappeared. All the clouds had drifted with the wind, but none of the shapes of the clouds around the target cloud had changed perceptibly. Only that cloud had dissolved into a wisp, which was surrounded by a hole of blue sky.
Holy shit.
Well, once means nothing, I said. I picked another cloud. This was a bigger one, and it looked something like a dragon standing on his hind legs. There was even a puff of smoke coming out of his mouth. Alexander seemed to warm up to the job, and St. Alexander slew this dragon cloud in less than 5 minutes just by looking at it intently. This time, warned by my first experience, I watched the surrounding clouds even more intently than I did the target, but they did not change. There's no photographic evidence of this. No pictures were taken that day in Miami, but previous tests in both Canada and England have been photographed and published. According to Alexander, Life had taken a series of photos, but none were ever published. Independent TV in England broadcast motion picture film. Let's see. Independent TV in England broadcast motion picture film they had made of a demonstration on this week, a program. Okay, so he says, this all sounds absolutely balmy, and certainly more in the field of the so-called mental, like the chanting and dancing of the American Indians, or the less noisy things like the evil eye, hexing, and so forth, which are alleged to be produced without any audible or visual mumbo-jumbo. But not at all. In answer to Walter's simple question, how do you do it? The somewhat ebullient Dr. Alexander stated flatly, very simply, when I look at a cloud, I shut my eyes quickly and photograph the cloud. I get the negative image in my mind, and then I recreate the positive image in my mind. Then I progressively imagine what I want to happen to that cloud, the stages that it passes through as it disintegrates. I visualize this. Then I open my eyes, stare straight at the cloud, and project that image. I believe the energy I'm using is biophysical. So there it is, laid out in oversimple but in fact totally incomprehensible terms. Another old friend of mine, Charles H. Hapgood, author of 2 remarkable books, and until recently, professor of the history of science at Keene State Teachers College in New Hampshire. Yeah.
Hapgood.
Yeah.
Maps of the Ancient Sea Kings.
Right. He became greatly intrigued by the above account and so tried out the method himself, skeptical as he was. Somewhat stunned by the results and being rather rudely kidded by all of us, he offered jokingly to put on a demonstration, and I must admit that he gave a rather worthy one in Charleston, West Virginia. He, in company with 12 others, including the writer, and Kent Wilcoxon, a geologist and profound skeptic of all matters such as this, were in that state on an archaeological mission. It had rained torrentially for 3 days before our arrival and continued to do so all night. Next morning, we asked Hapgood kiddingly to do something about it. He went out onto a veranda alone for a time, and lo and indeed, behold, a large break appeared in the dense, dark overcast precisely over Charleston. It stopped raining, and the hole continued enlarging until the sun shone through from a perfectly clear blue sky. The weather remained almost perfect over about 100 square miles of the Kawana Valley for the 2 days while we conducted our operations, though it continued to rain all around us. Within an hour of completing our field work, the sky clouded over and it began to rain again. I am quite prepared to admit that this was a straight case of K1. And so, you may think, endeth the first lesson, but no. On returning home to New Jersey, I reported on our trip to my gang. We were lounging in deck chairs on the lawn behind the house. It was a perfect day with lots of little fluffy cumulus clouds sailing majestically by overhead. One of my loyal assistants, the pragmatist and Navy electronics chap Mike Friedman, became incensed when I came to this cloud-busting bit, and he said, please, shut up. He then picked a cloud, lay back, and did something. He said the cloud dissolved just like Dr. Alexander's. Unconvinced, but considerably impressed in view of the fact that this was Mike the skeptic talking, we started a sort of game, picking a particular cloud that we all agreed upon, and then asking Mike to do it again. I'm sorry, skeptics, but I have, though very regretfully, I must admit, to state that it worked time and time again. And what was worse, that several other individuals appeared to be able to do the same thing. At this point, I frankly give up. As with the problem that I presented in the last chapter, I have absolutely no common sense suggestions to make by way of explanation of all of this. Since there must be an explanation, I refuse to accept coincidence. One can but assume that there are manipulative forces of which we have yet no knowledge. How far these should be sought over the border in a world of mental and mystical, I do not know. But until we have exhausted the possibilities on this, the materialistic side, I will go no further on that score. I got to try this.
Fucking awesome.
I've got to fucking try this. Like,
let's go cloud busting.
I'm going to fucking go blow some clouds up. This is going to be badass.
That's badass.
So yeah, that's Unexplained by Ivan T. Sanderson. The whole book is like that. It is just, he's hilarious. And it's written from his own perspective as he's traipsing around the world finding crazy people and weird anomalies, and then they work, and he's like, holy shit, this is real. It's badass. The whole thing is just great. And yeah, so I just wanted to read that excerpt from there. If you guys have any you'd bust any clouds, you gotta let us know.
Yeah, let us know.
Fucking get on the comments and let us know. We're gonna take one more break
and go bust some clouds, and we'll be back.
I'm gonna explode some clouds. Snake clouds. Makes clouds into snakes. Snakes.
fucking bust some clouds.
I'm trying it on my cigarette smoke here.
Bust a cloud.
We sit in the tangent cube and we smoke cigarettes, and it's too cloudy in here.
Yeah.
So clearly we should be able to do this.
Yeah, we need something to seat them so that they fall. It's like all the smoke falls to the ground. Welcome back, folks. Final segment of the final hour. Brothers of the Serpent podcast. Here in the 10 to the third power tangent cube.
That's right. 10-3.
High atop the dusty bones of an ancient seabed.
So what do you think about that? The rain dancing. Like there was a bunch of stories about that. He had a whole bunch of them in there. I'm sure there were better ones, but
yeah, I don't know, but I think you should link to that video you showed me.
Oh yeah.
That was badass. Yeah. Like it's just some badass music video.
Yeah.
This dude like doing this rain dance and just freaking starts pouring. That was really cool.
Yeah, that was cool. Coincidence?
No, I think.
I mean, the fact that I didn't know that anyone beside the American Indians did rain dances. I had no, like he clearly found them. He's like, no, this is a tradition all over the world.
Yeah.
Okay, that gives it a lot more weight to me, right? Yeah. That it's all over the world. Peoples all over the world have been doing this since as far back as anybody can figure out.
I think that there's a sinister plot going on by the scientific community that is peddling the man-made global warming, and that they know that the rain dance is real, right? So what they're trying to do is to get everybody to make the "we're all going to die and destroy the planet" dance.
Man, that's terrible.
So that we'll all die and destroy the planet. Because like if we have some type of mental power over like, well, I'm going to bust this cloud by imagining it busting.
Yeah.
Well, you could just destroy the planet by imagining it being destroyed.
Yeah. Doing the destroy the planet dance.
Yeah.
Destroy the planet dance.
Yeah, that's what they're doing. This fucking asshole.
Well, you know that.
But I was thinking that the as far as the cloud seeding goes, the sound cleaning.
Sound cleaning.
Yeah. That's not dyslexia.
It's like Saudis. Okay. Oh, right.
I think that's cool, and one of the things that I've looked into in physics is this thing that just kind of fascinated me and blew me away was this idea of nucleation.
Oh yeah,
and basically nucleation is the changing the phase change, the point at which something changes from a gas to a liquid, or the point at which something changes from a liquid to a solid, or vice versa. And it's a phenomenon, and we cannot observe it because we can't know.
It's so random.
Yeah, well, maybe. I mean, that's like saying it's coincidence, right?
No, I'm thinking of. Well, no, I'm thinking of like radioactive decay. It's another thing like where we know it happens. And like you can see the big effects of it, but you can't ever pinpoint which one will decay. You just know that
right. Yeah. Exactly. It's like that. So if you imagine you have some water and you're cooling it down, and you're wanting to see where the first actual ice crystal forms. So that when the first, say, molecule or a couple of molecules form a crystal together, they stack together in a crystalline form. That site is called the nucleation site.
Yeah.
Once that's established, then the rest of the water molecules going around can stick to that and you just stack onto it, right?
Right.
So when all of the water is still liquid and you're trying to look to see like, well, where is it going to nucleate? You can't know that.
Right.
Right. So,
and since you're looking at like very tiny scales, right?
Right. So you can, if they wanted to observe nucleation, and let's say they just picked randomly, let's say it's a nucleating atom in a crystal that's becoming a crystal. They're looking at one atom, and they're hoping that atom will be where it nucleates, and then suddenly that atom is a crystal, right?
Yeah.
And then they're like, oh shit, but they can't know that atom was the one that nucleated, because it could have stuck to another atom that they weren't looking at.
Yeah.
That was already a crystal.
Yeah.
So it's never been observed. It's supposedly unobservable, but this, it's unobservable now. But that whole idea fascinated me, and I was just like, dude, that is the reason for everything that we have everything right now is because of these phase changes are possible. So whatever the site is that causes this nucleation to happen, and we kind of know what the characteristics can be. If you have a jagged edge of something,
or some imperfection,
that if you have an extremely smooth surface, it's less likely that things are going to nucleate or turn to crystal along that surface.
Yeah. So if anybody wants to experiment with this, you can't observe nucleation like he's saying, but you can get distilled water and pour it into like a glass. Either like a petri dish is what I'm thinking of, but you can put it into like a glass jar, anything with a smooth, rounded.
Yeah, preferably crystal, a crystal glass.
Okay,
because it's so much smoother than regular normal glass.
Or you can do it in plastic. I used to do it in glass bottles, but yeah. So pour that and then put that in a freezer and try to pick a freezer that's like it needs to be on the ground floor and needs to be on like concrete and hopefully one that doesn't vibrate a whole lot when the compressor comes on. And you put it in the freezer there and just leave it. And then if everything is right, like the distilled water doesn't have a bunch of shit in it, it's really clean. When you open the freezer again, it'll still be water, but you can just flick the glass, ding, and you can watch it turn into ice almost instantly. It's pretty cool.
Because the motion of flicking it
causes the nucleation somewhere.
Causes some atoms or the molecules of the water to smack each other, and somewhere it nucleates, and then bam, once one's created, the rest of them just fall in line.
Yeah. And I was also fascinated by the idea that the change is a protective measure. In other words, like the energy level has dropped so low because of the temperature difference that these these molecules are in danger of falling apart. Okay. So the phase change from liquid to solid allows them to stay water. Like it's like a sort of a protective measure. Like it's able to retain its molecular cohesiveness instead of becoming just hydrogen and oxygen gas.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
But anyway, with the topic of nucleation, basically rainmaking, the science of trying to make it rain. Basically,
cloud seeding.
Cloud seeding. You have all this water vapor in the sky, and when rain happens, the same thing. There's nucleation happening in all of these places all throughout the cloud where these water vapor molecules suddenly nucleate and it becomes a drop of liquid instead of a gas. And then liquid is obviously heavy, so it falls. And when it starts to fall, it's slamming through a whole bunch of other gaseous, water vapor molecules, which they start flying around and causing more nucleation to happen. So
a lot of them will glom onto it and make the drop bigger too. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But if they don't, they're getting pushed away or moved around faster. So that whole deal, like this guy with his towers and his chemicals, is totally that's legit. Like you can there's any number of things that you could do, but maybe your technology isn't great enough to be able to do certain things, but to get that vapor to nucleate and make rain. So it's interesting. The dancing. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
Clearly, it's kicking up dust, and that's causing nucleation.
Yeah, but it's like, when are they dancing and making noise? Yeah, they're making noise.
But it's
rhythmic noises. I don't know. I just don't know. But I think that I'm kind of a believer in this idea that there is a physical, like the laws of physics. We don't know them all yet.
Yeah.
But if we were to know them all, then we would know how these things can seemingly work. Like if you can think about something and make it happen, well, you're affecting physics with your thinking. So there's going to be some laws there that determine how the physical stuff is being pushed around or whatever. Because like even if it is some spiritual thing, still, if you're moving something in space, you're affecting physics.
Right.
So there are laws that will govern that.
Yep.
So I just don't know what they are, but I think it's cool as shit.
Yeah. So like you're basically saying like even if the initial thing you're doing is magic in the sense that it happens in a spiritual realm, like a different universe, when it comes back to our realm to cause the physical thing to take place, physical things are happening there. And you probably can define both processes with laws, right? Whatever is happening in the spiritual realm or whatever,
yeah,
probably has laws that govern it too. They're going to be completely different from ours, you know. But then when it begins to interact with this universe again and causes physical things to occur, then again the physical laws from here apply.
Yeah, but also the actual interaction between the spiritual realm and the physical.
Yeah.
There's going to be laws that govern that type of interaction. How does it work?
Yeah.
So I guess when I say there's a physical explanation, what I mean really is that something is happening in the physics, right, of the cloud busting.
Yeah.
And it's not a known, there's not a known reason or connection in physics to your mind. But if we understood how our minds can affect physics, then we would be able to make sense of it. That's what I'm saying. I think that when I think about spiritual stuff, I don't think that it's just like, you know, it's just magic or whatever. I feel like the spiritual stuff also has rules and laws that govern it.
Magic has rules and laws. I always use the term magic in the sense that it's not happening here. That's what
I know what you meant. I'm just saying that I'm trying to clarify my point. Not that there's necessarily a physical explanation for like spiritual shit.
Yeah.
But that however that shit works, there are laws that govern it, and that's in somewhere the laws of physics and those laws interact.
Yeah.
And then there could, so in other words, I guess what I should say instead of a physical explanation, there's a mechanism that can be discovered.
Yeah.
So
I think that's what the practice of magic is about, is discovering the mechanisms and then figuring out how they work and then using them in the same way.
Right.
Because what we want to do, like whenever the human race has set about to figure out some process, the idea is that if we got the process understood, then we can do the same thing over and over. And therefore, we can sort of predict our results, and therefore you can kind of plan ahead, right? Like once you got the idea of making fire, you know that I could take this stick and I can spin it down on this thing, and I can eventually make fire. Then that allows you to sort of teach people, and the process is the same because the mechanism is there, right?
Yeah,
yeah. So I agree. Like that should happen in magic as well. That we discover a process that operates within a mechanism that causes certain things to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So as far as like
but who would have guessed dancing?
Well, a dance. So dancing has a serious effect on your mind. Like when you really get into dancing, it's like a form of meditation almost. It's like when you're just fucking
a rhythm
in
dance,
it, dude. You go into or at least I have,
it's an altered state.
When we were raving and shit, you get into a sort of an altered state.
Yeah. I mean there are traditions like in tribal cultures in places that don't have any kind of psychedelic available in the nature, right? So they didn't have mushrooms or anything else. They would do ritual dance to get into the altered state to have their spiritual experiences. Yeah.
So I guess what I'm saying is that the dancing may be doing something mentally rather than physically. So like when you're looking at a rain dance and you're thinking like, okay, they think that if they do these certain moves, it's going to cause it to rain. And you're looking at physics. You're like, that doesn't make any sense. That's bullshit. I can agree with that. But if you're thinking of it in terms of the dancing is getting your mind in the right place to do what it needs to do to affect physics in the way that you can't,
Yeah. Most physicists would still say bullshit.
Yeah. But and why? Because then they're going to go down and sit around and do shit with their mind so that they can fucking understand
and build
physics.
rockets. Yeah. And go to space. Like you did that with your mind.
Yeah. I mean, basically, this is the biggest argument here with materialists and spiritual,
or just non-materialists,
non-materialists, that the mind is purely explained with physics, and we can't. No one
Yeah,
no one has been able to explain the act of thinking with physics. We can measure brain activity.
Yeah.
But you could also say
correlation is not causation.
Well, you could also say that, well, that's proof right there that your thinking is affecting the physical world.
Right.
Because your thinking is making neurons fire in your brain.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, the hard question, they call it the hard question of consciousness, is how do you take unconscious bits of things, material, and put a bunch of them together and have consciousness? Like, that's why they started calling it an emergent property. Like it's a property that emerges out of this other structure, having no prior reason for it to exist. But once you get this structure this specific way, then suddenly, bam, consciousness appears whole cloth. Even though you're supposedly getting it from something that's built of a bunch of objects that have zero consciousness in them. How do you add up zero consciousness plus times a million and get consciousness? You shouldn't get it. That's the hard question of consciousness itself. And then there's the problem of neuroplasticity. How is it that I can sit here and think and change my brain?
Yeah.
That's, or even if you just go with something more simple, like I can conceive of a project, like the example I heard was a 57 Chevy, right? Like I can sit down and invent in my mind a 57 Chevy, and then I can actually go out and get materials and start arranging them, and then eventually I'll have a 57 Chevy, which started out purely as an object in my mind that did not exist, but I can turn it into something that does exist, starting from this thought. How is that possible?
That was my point too, is that they're trying to say that thought is a function of physics, and they're measuring it because they're looking at they're measuring the magnetic field around your brain, and they're seeing your neurons fire when you're thinking about specific things. And that doesn't prove that it's physical. That's basically saying, well, I'm going to think, and then I detect electrical currents, so the electrical currents are my thinking.
Right.
It's bullshit.
Right. The electrical currents are correlated with thinking, but correlation is not causation.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. And so you could also say in the same, you could suggest basically that the electrical currents are caused by the thinking.
Right. Exactly.
Not the other way around.
Yeah. Yeah. And like I've also heard it.
And okay, here's a good point. If they weren't caused by the thinking, but it was the other way around, then how do you decide to think?
Right.
Because if there aren't any electrical currents going about thinking about an apple, how do you decide to think about an apple?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because you'd have to have
what starts that? Yeah.
Yeah. The electrical currents would have to determine, like, okay, apple, and then you think about it.
Yeah.
But
right. That's that's why I can't remember his name. The guy that runs Skeptico, he says that the idea that we are biological robots in this like meat body is ridiculous. Like that if what's his name, Richard Dawkins wrote that book called The Selfish Gene that explains, where he purports to explain all of everything we've ever done, right? Like everything we've built, all the stuff we've conceived of, because we have genetics that are sort of designed to propagate the selfish gene, right? So all of the things we've done that have
for sex,
yeah. Well, all the things we've done, all the things we've done, that everything we created, art, everything like that, is based on survival, which is just it's a huge stretch. You're like, I don't see how. What does art have to do with survival? Or a kid sitting there drawing in the dirt with a stick. What does that have to do with survival?
Yeah.
Or just like when you're laying down thinking at night and you're in bed and you're thinking about weird shit, that doesn't have anything to do with your survival. I mean, it can.
Yeah, it can.
But how does something you think about change the real world in terms of survival? Because they would say that consciousness is an illusion. Well, if it's an illusion, how does it change stuff?
Yeah.
How do I think of a 57 Chevy and then make one if consciousness is an illusion, right?
How do I mean, just on the basic level, like my thinking results in physical stuff happening because I just decide to move because I thought like I'm uncomfortable, or I decide to move because I'm like, I would like a bowl of ice cream.
Right. And so I've read some stuff like where I can
just flip out.
Right. And so what did you do right there? You did all these physical motions, right? That's what you're talking about. Like,
Yeah, exactly.
You have this.
I just made the physical shit change because I thought of it.
Right. So the quick answer to that is like, well, you're physically connected. Your brain, where all the thinking is happening, is physically connected by wires of shit to the stuff you just moved, which causes other things to move, right? But I mean, like when I move my arm, like what's really happening there? Am I sending signals and all this bullshit, or like I'm not doing any of that, right? So is it, you say it's an automated system, or is there something more profound happening here? Like my intention to move my arm is an immaterial illusion, according to materialists.
Yeah.
But nevertheless, it results in an arm moving.
I've for many, many years, I've thought of the brain as like
the interface.
an interface, an antenna, an interface that basically converts the whatever the spiritual, non-physical,
Non-local mind,
the intelligence, the consciousness is, that the brain is the thing that gets the information somehow, or just like what I guess the consciousness can interact with the brain directly.
Right.
And so for whatever reason, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not claiming to know. It's just an idea that the consciousness interacts with the brain, and the brain is a machine that's basically built with all the wires to control the body. So if you remove the consciousness, you could technically like still function, but you would have no intention whatsoever.
So
you wouldn't do anything.
Coma.
Right.
Yeah, so like that's why I think of it as an interface. Like the consciousness is non-local, but it is able to directly interact with the brain and through the brain control the physical body. But the brain is also receiving information.
And go make fire and burn stuff.
Yeah, that's right.
Exactly.
Setting things on fire and burning things, that's pretty much what we do.
That's all we care about.
We burn things. Things are on fire. So so the brain is also receiving information from the physical body, and then the consciousness is able to retrieve that information. So there's a two-way street here.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
It's
that's why it's
right.
Yeah,
So you got these eyeballs, and they pick up the waves from in the physical stuff, and then the eyeball is designed to convert all of that electromagnetic field information into electrical currents.
Yeah.
And then the mind is the processor, the non-physical thing that actually takes that, and our mind has built all of these concepts based on these electrical currents. Same with the eardrum. The eardrum's doing all this shit, and our mind has built all of these little boxes that, okay, well, that information means someone's dying. Yeah. That information means someone's on fire.
Yeah.
It's like so it goes both ways, but without the processor to take the raw data of the electrical currents coming in through the senses of the body.
Yeah.
There is no fire. There is no someone screaming and
right. There's no concept.
There's nothing.
Yeah.
It's just fucking electricity.
Right. It's information coming in and nothing happens to it. It's not processed in any way. Yeah.
Right. So you can. It's like with a computer. You have if you're recording, like what we're doing right now. We're recording in this microphone. It goes into an interface, and then it converts it over to digital.
Ones and zeros.
So that's called an AD converter, analog to digital conversion. The ones and zeros are not the sound. They're not at all the sounds of our voices. And without the processor that both does the conversion a specific way, or the AD converter converting it in a specific way, and the processor being programmed to take that conversion and then rebuild so the AD converter does it backwards. Like the computer takes the ones and zeros and then runs through the ones and zeros again. And then it goes back into the interface, and it takes all those the AD converter takes all those ones and zeros and turns it back into electrical currents that go out of speakers.
Signal, yeah.
And it's making the exact same vibrations in the speaker that were vibrations in the diaphragm of the microphone.
Yeah.
The interface, just like you're saying, is like.
So in this analogy, the audio interface is the brain. right?
Right.
That you're talking about, yeah.
Yeah. And the computer could be
the mind.
Could be the mind, because the computer can look at can take the data and then paint a picture out of it.
Yeah.
It can make all these waveforms and everything, and then it can cut them and split them up and add more bass or get rid of that. It can do all of this shit with it.
Yeah,
and then put it back out. The interface doesn't fucking know what the fucking audio is. The computer processor in the program that was designed by intelligence is what knows what those fucking ones and zeros are.
And it has a million ways to mess with them.
A million ways to mess with them, change them, and then put them back into the world.
Right. And it runs them back through the interface in order to do that. But the interface, again, does not know that
it's
just converting.
The interface doesn't get it and say, oh, yeah, that's the same shit I brought in. And no, it doesn't. It just fucking gets it and it turns it back into, it does its job.
A mechanical process, practically. Yeah. That's great. That's a good discussion of consciousness. Like, I've tried to point this out to people, like, how do you have an immaterial thing that results in material changes? And people are like, well, because it happens like every day. Like, I mean, you're doing it right now. I'm like, yeah, that's not a good answer to that question, though.
If you want to test the theory of fucking materialism, then fucking just stop thinking.
That's like the multiverse test. I'm like, you guys should try this. Test the multiverse. You get the gun that's based on the electron going down one path or the other, you know? Mm-hmm. And you just pull the trigger over and over and over and over. If you never die, multiverse is real.
Yeah. Heisenberg roulette.
Yeah. This is a great way to get rid of multiverse believers. So I have this list. Let's see what you think of this list.
How long is this list?
It's incredibly long, but I'm not going to read the whole thing.
Because we're about at the end here.
Well, this is a bonus. This is a bonus part.
All right.
Okay. Bricks, coke, slag, foil and tinsel, stone axes and wedges, carbonate of soda, buckshot, nails, money, plastic balls, ashes, sand, ice, stones, alabaster sandstone, asbestos, etc. Mammals, birds, reptiles, amphibians, ants, worms, insects, larvae, insects, water bugs, jellyfish, mussels, periwinkles, prawns, crabs, flesh and blood, plain blood, hairs, butter, marsh paper, grains and seeds, hay, leaves, fibers, plastic or jelly-like masses, and manna. That last one's a good clue.
Food.
Stuff that falls out of the sky.
Oh. Plastic balls are not food.
But that is a very compressed list of things that have fallen from the sky more than one time. In other words, like this, and this has been happening throughout history. Like all that shit that I just read off, that stuff has been falling from the sky all over the world. According to Ivan,
hey, light wasn't in there, man.
Yeah,
fucking dumb.
Yeah. I guess it's material objects that we can touch. But yeah, like bricks, buckshot.
Yeah, all that stuff is heavier than air.
Yeah, how did it get up there though? Is the question. Because I'm talking about it falls like it's rain, like enormous amounts of it fall.
Man, that would be awesome. If bricks just fell from the sky, dude, we could just build a pyramid. Build a pyramid out of them. That's how they fucking got there.
Yeah. But like, and then all the animals too. So like, I'm sure everybody's seen at one time or another in the news stories, like that there was a rain and worms, were in it, or fish, little fish. Okay. Mm-hmm. And the usual explanation is that some water spout somewhere picked them up. But that doesn't work with bricks or buckshot. Where's a tornado going to find buckshot? In
large quantities.
Yeah, and only buckshot.
It was probably dove season when that buckshot was falling from the sky. I mean, fucking come on, man.
And then there's the weird, it's organic, but it's not an animal, like just blood. Like in 2012. An enormous amount of red rain, they were saying it was red rain, fell in India, and they took a bunch of samples of it, and it was human blood cells.
Yeah, that's fucking crazy.
And it fell over, I mean, when they tried to calculate how much exactly blood must have fallen for this particular rainstorm in India, and it was like millions of gallons of blood must have been falling from the sky. Where is this coming from?
Ancient wars. I don't know. I have no fucking idea.
I don't either. But this is part of I've thought that this may be connected to when people find animals and other things stuck in stone or in other objects. You know, like, so they're quarrying or they break open something and they find a frog in a perfectly frog-shaped hole, and it's like dried or whatever. But then the frog wakes up and hops off. So to me, it seems like maybe that things are phasing in from somewhere else. They're teleporting here from some other universe. You know, back to the multiverse question again. Like, just got to pull that trigger. What?
I wonder why they got rid of their plastic balls. Like,
those could be coming
like we're getting rid of this McDonald's fucking playground in this this multiverse universe. So just send them somewhere else.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think it must be like, at least he's talking, the way he talks about it, he's like, so these universes are very close to each other. So they're close to being the same. So plastic balls exist in this one, they all exist in another one. But you get falls of animals and other things like that.
Yeah, it would be really interesting if some of the animals that fell were
not.
Yeah.
And they are.
Like never have been found here ever.
Yeah, so that there'll be fish, and we recognize them as fish, but when they go to study them, they are no known species of fish. Now, that doesn't mean that they don't exist here, because there's plenty of fish we probably have never seen. But in this, like in that chapter of the book, he goes through a bunch of these, and he shows how in the majority of cases where animals fall, even though they're recognizable animals, they are of no recognizable species.
Yeah, that's weird. No fucking idea.
So
I've never seen anything fucking weird fall from the sky.
Yeah, I know. I was thinking about this. He says in there too. He's like, as I'm writing this, I know of 2 places in the woods nearby here, within 30 miles. He said, where there is like piles of anomalous stuff that has fallen from the sky. It's called angel hair, or that's the name it's been given. It's like long, weird strands of fibrous shit, right? Clear, usually. He's like, there's 2 places I know of that's nearby here where this stuff just is in the woods. Just like it falls out of the sky. Nobody knows what it is or where it comes from. You know?
Chemtrails, man.
He talked about ice falling from the sky. Now, we've seen hail, right? Snow, sleet. But he says that when paleo ice, which is, it's got a particular time of, particular name. I can't remember what it's called. It's paleo crystal, something like that. In other words, it's ice that has been around for 10,000 years. It takes on a particular shape. It becomes dark blue. It's beautiful, right? It's clear and blue, like glacier ice, right? Think of that.
Yeah.
Okay. It's paleo ice. It's old. How does that fall from the sky? You know, and he talks about there's been falls of paleo ice that just come out of the sky, and they're enormous blocks, right? He said that one time a huge slab of ice fell that had icicles hanging from the bottom of it. How do you get that up in the sky? Like, icicles form from water melting and running off the thing, but if it's flying around up in the sky, that doesn't seem like it would work.
Yeah.
You know. Anyway, that whole chapter on that stuff is just there are thousands, like Charles Fort, the guy that Fortianism is named after. His whole Book of the Damned, that's what it's about. All he did was catalog all these weird things that have fallen out of the sky. And he calls it the Book of the Damned because he's like, these facts, these are facts. They're in scientific journals all over the world, but they are damned facts. They are, they're sort of excluded from all scientific literature and discussion. Nobody wants to talk about them because there isn't a good explanation that fits with any kind of paradigm that we have that's anywhere close, right? So these are damned. It's the Book of the Damned.
Yeah.
Because, if you have a piece of hail that's the size and weight of an elephant and it comes out of the sky, like what do you do with that? You can't explain that. Cannonballs? Money? There was one in here in the book where he talks like all these coins fall out of the sky all over the place, and it represents millions of dollars of coins, but they're all weird. They're not coins that we have. They look very close, but they're not quite right. You can't use them as actual money because they're not right. Like the face
That's
on them,
bullshit.
What?
Well, they fucking send us some real money.
Well, it came from a different universe. They had a different president, And
yeah,
so
but still, it should be like some kind of good metal.
it's like Joe Blow on there instead of George Washington or something. Well, the metal is good. Yeah, the metal's good. It's copper or silver or, iron.
We should start a new currency, Skycoin.
Sky coins. How do you get this? You got to wait for it to fall.
Yeah. But that's pretty much it.
Yep, that's it.
It's time to go to bed.
This show's gonna fall out of the sky, right on your head. Yeah, so thank you guys very much for listening. You can get a hold of us on the blog at brothersoftheserpent.blogspot.com. You can comment there. You can send us emails at brothersoftheserpent@gmail.com. You guys can give us good reviews on iTunes or Tuned In or Stitcher. That would be great. What?
Give us good reviews, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you can give us bad ones, but don't do that. So I think that's it. And we will see you guys next week. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Good night, Adamu. It's time for bed. Snakes!